us an option if we wanted these. And Dale said no. I think this year we'll keep them. And we'll put them in here. And every meeting I'll pull it out and be like, what did I have to do?
Wait, who's got this assignment anyway? Isn't
Recording in progress.
Oh,
Especially the old one.
I've got some mosquito data for tonight.
yeah, thanks. Welcome to the Washington City Council workshop meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 14th. It's 4 p.m. Before I call for an approval of the agenda, I'd just like to ask that we strike item 2 in the interest of time, and would like to have Councilman Ivey here for that item. So I will call for an approval of the agenda, striking item number 2.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with item number 2 removed from the work session meeting.
I have a motion by Coates,
Second.
second by Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Okay, so we have 3 items. We have an hour and a half. We'll split those into about thirds. Our first item, this is recently there was affordable housing kind of a meeting, and there was just some really good information, and I saw Councilman Henderson there and a few from the staff. But the material was so good that I had just, and he actually was one of the presenters at the conference. So I'd asked him to come and give us a little bit of a condensed version to just kind of give the council an update on, where we are as a community with attainable, affordable housing. So Jordan Hess will present, and then after he presents, if you have a few questions or discussions, we'd be happy to facilitate that. Jordan
Thank
Hess.
you. Appreciate it. I actually have hard copies for each of you as well.
That's right. It was the Housing Action Coalition.
Yeah, as the mayor said, we had our very first forum last month, and under Jeremy's direction, I've been involved with this coalition and helped with the planning and execution of that housing forum. So I've got some data that I want to share just to paint a picture, and this isn't results oriented today. This is kind of just data to help you understand the problem that's before us, and then I believe the mayor's going to have some people present in the future on some possible solutions. The Housing Action Coalition has been together since 2019. It's a group of municipal leaders, community stakeholders, concerned citizens. We meet together regularly to talk about attainable housing. And what that is safe, affordable housing of all types for all ages and income levels. We know that housing actually falls into 2 of the categories for a key social determinant of health, both the economic stability key indicator and the neighborhood and built environment. Everyone wants to feel like they own a property. They want to feel like they are sufficient, that they have a safe place to live and raise their families. But the reality is that many of us in our community don't have that opportunity. As you'll see on this graph here, every year the Housing and Urban Development Department, they come out with the by county, the median family income. So for Washington County, the median household income for a family of 4 is $83,900 a year. And as you go down that table, you can see at each level of income, the maximum mortgage loan amount that family of four would be able to afford. So someone who's at the median family income can afford a home with a mortgage of $475,000 a year. The sad part is that the median sell price, and this is Washington City specific, is $637,500. And that is as of November, so just last month, a couple weeks ago. I just got the latest data today. So we have a gap of $162,500 between the median income and the median sales price of our housing in Washington City. And as you think about who this affects, it's a lot of our workers, a lot of our healthcare, a lot of our first responders, our teachers, blue collar workers. So that gap of 162.5 is an impediment for these people being able to afford to live in Washington City. The attainability gap is actually widening. The blue bars are this year, and the yellow is June of 2020. And as you can see, most of our housing, 1,135 of the homes listed, are 100% of that median income or higher. And we have 0 housing available for anyone in extreme poverty, 12 homes available for that 30 to 50% range, 32 homes available 50 to 80, and 33 homes 80 to 100. So of the 1,200 or so homes that are available in Washington County, only 77 of them are available for people below our median income in the county and in the city. So whereas 50% of our people in the county are living below that median income, only 6% of the housing is available for them. So what we did at the Housing Action Coalition, we actually looked at, we made a attainable housing persona report. So we looked at real people living in our community by category and what they're expecting or what they're wanting when it comes to housing. And as you'll see here, 80% of our workers are service, support, or blue collar. And our median household income is 7% lower than the national average. But 82% of our homes are single family residences, and our homes are 33% higher than the median priced home in the national average. So the people we looked at were emerging contributors, new young couples, single parents, and your mature renter that would rather have more stability and be able to own a home. So we went persona by persona. This is someone that he just says he's just trying to move out of his parents' house. So these are age 20 to 30. Their annual income's 25 to 35. They have high school and some college. But their goal is social perception is most important to them. They just want to get out of their parents' basement. They want to feel like they're stable and contributing. And but really, what their preferences are is really interesting. They want to be closer to home, to work and school. They don't care if their support system is close by. They're open to many different types of housing, and they're very open to shared spaces as well, so condos or shared housing. These are our emerging contributors. A lot of them are landscapers, construction, housekeeping, tour guides, food workers, cashiers, and these are a lot of the people that we staff our restaurants with. And as you'll probably noticed, restaurants have weird hours these days because they can't find people who can afford to live here. The next persona we looked at were new couples. So they just want to save money until options open up around town, 20 to 35 years old, annual income 45 to 65. We've got about 4,700 of these households in our county, and they are not open to shared spaces. They're a new couple. They want their own space. They want a place to establish a home. they're open to different housing types and they want to be closer to their support system. But their motivation is also mostly social perception. They're a new couple. They want to be able to go out on their own and establish a household. They also want to build a financial foundation and personal growth.
Hey, Jordan.
Yes.
How did they come up with this data? How does this? I'm just curious how they did to formulate this.
Yeah, so this was a study done through the Atwood Innovation Plaza at Utah Tech, and it was led by Rick Atkin, and he had a team of researchers that actually went out into the community, found different people that met these criteria, and they interviewed them to find out what it is they're looking for, what it is they're comfortable with, what their preferences are. So these were real people in our community that they went out and interviewed as part of their study. And I can email a full study if you would like.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yep. The next one is a single parent. They want to be close to work or school. They want to be close to a support system in case they need mom or dad to babysit while they're working. They're so-and-so on housing types, but they're not open to shared space. And I think being a single parent, you want your child to feel secure. You want a space all to yourself. But their motivation is more family comfort and security, building a financial foundation and household stability. And then the final one that they looked at were our mature renters. 30 to 35, they might be living on Social Security, but they want a place of their own. They just want some stability. They're not open to shared space. They are open to different housing types, though. And the bottom line through all of the research they did was that there's this missing middle and co-housing in Washington County. And as you go through the packet and dive deeper into that data, with that gap of about $160,000 between what people can afford and what our median home price is, that's the middle that we're missing. And so this data is not to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. It's just to inform you as you make zoning decisions and approve housing projects in Washington City. And the mayor just asked that I share this data. Happy to share more of it with you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those too. But this is just kind of a snapshot of where we're at in the housing market.
So I want to thank Jordan for his help on this. Put a lot of time and effort into helping with the Housing Action Coalition workshop, and it was really beneficial. But I think the thing to take away, and the biggest thing I learned from watching this presentation is these are real people who are they have jobs. They're working to try to become part of our community. Sometimes they get villainized in our public hearings, and I know that's not necessarily our fault, but it helps instead of just lumping everyone into one category and saying low income or moderate income, to really humanize who people are that are looking for housing in our area. And I think this does that. So it's good to remember. I think it's a good refresher for all of us. I wish we had all the people that come for the public hearings here to hear this type of information as well. So.
Council, I'm happy to spend the next 15 or so minutes having a discussion on this if you feel like we need that much time. I just peppered Jordan with some questions. I know he has been very involved with this committee assignment and a lot of good information there.
Jordan, can I ask a question?
Sure.
As you guys have discussed all of these things, are there any, strategies that you guys discussed that, cities could look at to maybe solve some of these problems?
Yeah, there are. And like I said, mayor's planning on inviting some people to come present at future meetings on some of those. But one issue specifically is the land trust that is about ready to actually launch. And that is land that is most often donated to this land trust. And it's kind of like in Mexico where you don't actually own the land you buy your house on, but you can like do a 100-year lease on it. It's that type of an issue. And I know that Jeremy has been involved in a lot of these discussions with the land trust as well. And Charlene Wilder is kind of the leader in our area on this issue, and she's helping to guide that discussion. But it is getting ready to launch, and so I think it's a good time to have her come and present on the nuts and bolts of that issue.
Well, I have to say, I kind of figured it was going this way, but I hate that we're not going in the right trend. And I think it's what we've seen over the past few years. I mean, when we first started looking at this, it wasn't as bad as it is today. And it's not getting any better, which is, it's disheartening. I don't like that, because I think we've all mentioned we want our kids to live here, but if they can't afford to even move out of our house, and I'm not one that wants my kids in my house for too much longer than they have to, right?
Yeah.
Like, I like them now, but
Go ahead.
But no, I'm just saying that I don't know how we solve this. I'm glad we're working on solutions. I mean, we've talked about this for a couple years. I mean, I've mentioned stuff to Jeremy to look at. There's been other communities have tried other things, and one thing I want to bring out to the council is our workforce are those people, right? So instead of them living in Enterprise and East Hurricane or wherever to be able to drive into town every day just to work here, I want to get so that we can have them live in the town and be a part of the town. So I think one thing we should look at is some, I don't want to call it workforce housing, but like housing that our workers have an option to go into on some of the city lands we have. And that's something we just need to look at. It might make sense, it might not. But if we have some lands that the city owns and it makes sense to build something that the employees can build, but I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea. Just something we should look at.
I think you're absolutely on the right track, Councilman.
There are some private businesses that are already doing this. Balance of Nature is building their new headquarters out in Hurricane, and they are building workforce housing as part of that headquarters. And I know like Tuacahn has built housing for their performers, because they can't attract people to come perform at Tuacahn if they can't afford to live here for this 6-month contract. And then there are also programs at the state level. David Damshin, who was the former state treasurer, is heading up a program where they offer financing options for first responders. So our fire and our police can apply for like 0% down loans, help with closing costs, etc. And I know that even D.R. Horton has for first responders or anyone in the healthcare industry can qualify for $10,000 toward closing costs at their new development here in Washington. So there are some private organizations doing this. But yeah, I think workforce housing might be a good idea.
Well, and I love that, because as Councilman Coates referred to, we've been having this conversation for some time now, and that development agreement with Long Valley Trails was drafted during that time, and there was a component to that for workforce housing. So we're happy to see that they came back and memorialized that with plat approvals with this council. Jordan, could you speak? Just one of the slides that I found really interesting was that slide number 3. It's titled "Housing is a Key Social Determinant." Determinant. Excuse me. Where's my glasses? Determinant of health. We've seen a trend, and certainly, housing in a community needs spokes of all types. But we've seen a fair amount of rental properties come forward. On the one end of the spectrum, and on the other end of the spectrum, we see various types of single family lots, but there's still that missing middle of ownership that might fit some of the demographic of the categories that you showed. Can you just speak a little bit to that? Maybe just elaborate a little bit on, the difference between, healthy lifestyles and communities for renting versus owning. And I don't know, it's not scientific, but just kind of your thoughts and the council's thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's not scientific, but some studies have shown that owning your home helps you take more ownership and pride in that home, taking better care of that home, taking better care of your neighborhood when you own a piece of land rather than you're just renting something that's temporary. So yeah, and people just feel better about themselves, their financial situation, their family, when they can say that they own a property. Especially some of these, the kid that wants to move out of his parents' basement. I mean, imagine being 25 years old, you've just graduated college, you want to get out on your own, but there's nowhere to go because you can't afford to. And I don't think anyone wants to be 25 years old living in their parents' basement. And that does a lot for their mental health as well. So this is a key social determinant, is home ownership.
And I'll just kind of be on the record for council and especially staff to hear, and anyone who's kind of bringing forward projects is, for this past year that I've been in this role, from my first public speaking, I've talked about that missing middle. And I think there's still just that need for, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, different types of properties where individuals and couples and families can have a deeded property for themselves. I just don't think it's healthy for all properties to be held by, landlords and organizations, and making it difficult for people to establish some roots and, to build into maybe future goals of housing. So it just is, as we're looking through that staffing and things, I know we can't totally, control or dictate what the private market does, but I think we can try to influence that. And in some places where I think, maybe a developer might look and say, apartments are the biggest return on their investment, but what about our investment in this community? And I think there's an investment in the community that can happen by good partnerships and having a variety of housing. And I think we can get some creative ideas, some creative approaches that, maybe even some policy from a city standpoint that can be win-win for developers and for this issue that we're trying to be part of the solution.
Yeah, and Long Valley is a good example. Their townhomes start at $350. And so that falls into the low income to moderate income.
Can I also tell you, and maybe I shouldn't say this too loud because I have kids getting close to that age, but some of their alley back properties are at $299. And what we see is that as interest rates drop, the market pushes the pricing up, but then as interest rates rise, then the pricing comes back down because it's all about that payment. But it would be also interesting if the state could explore some opportunities for when, interest rates are high for the general public. Maybe there are some opportunities for better financing when sales price is down. I don't have all the solutions, but I think we're going to bring forward some ideas for the council to consider.
One more thought. I'm also involved in the short-term rental working group with the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and Washington City fell in the top 10 in the whole state of Utah for the increase of short-term and nightly rentals. And those are properties that people cannot, someone's got a casita, they could allow someone to live there, but they would make more money by using it as a short-term rental. So there's some legislation that's being formulated to hopefully balance property rights with this housing crisis that we're facing. And the hard part is finding that middle there where we're not completely disregarding people's property rights, but we're also trying to solve our housing crisis, especially in a place like Washington where a lot of people vacation and visit here.
Right. But
So is that allowing it statewide to have the ability to be able to do short-term rentals?
The bill that we're working on would allow that authority to remain within the municipality. So the city could make the decisions for the city. So it wouldn't be a statewide blanket. It would be left up to each city to be able to regulate short-term and nightly rentals. Now, there are some people that are trying to make a move to just do away with all regulations whatsoever, statewide. And so what they're trying to do is find a balance between no nightly rentals and do whatever you want policy.
I've always kind of felt like if you choose to own property within an incorporated municipality, then you are also choosing to live by the ordinance and kind of the regulations there. You're incorporated, meaning you're part of a group. I mean, over the years, it's not that I'm anti short-term rental by any means, and I'm certainly pro property rights. I'm also pro, affordable housing. But we do see times when, short-term renters can disrupt some of the quality of life and kind of the peaceful nature of neighborhoods if it's left unchecked. But any other comments? Can I
I just
give,
want to
yeah,
say
go ahead,
really
Councilman.
quick, I'm glad that we're focusing on this because in having discussions with different principals, they interview teachers and then they have a really difficult time after they look at the housing market and then, just looking at the numbers of what they make and the cost of housing, they can't get it. They can't hire some of the teachers because they can't afford to live here. And then I like that you brought up about having different options for families because of having townhomes and having the only option for affordable housing to be an apartment complex. Mike and I have traveled a lot and we've had to live in apartment complexes with our family, and it's not the most ideal for families with young children and everything. We had some neighbors down that were below us that were not too happy with my kids just running through the house when they were 4 and 2 years old. And so I just feel like it's an important discussion. And just like what Jeremy was saying, these are really respectable individuals who are contributing to our community. And so it's not just, it's an important issue to be focusing on.
I'm glad you brought up the principals because at the Housing Action Forum that we held last month, we had the school district present, we had IHC was there, and we had the sheriff's office as well. And the county sheriff's office they are short 17 officers right now because they can't find people that can afford to live here. And teachers, same thing. We're short teachers because they can't live here. And then in the healthcare system, they're having to rely a lot on traveling nurses because people can't afford to be a nurse and live here permanently. So it's across all the different sectors of our economy, and it's affecting everybody.
And to your point, Councilmember, Charlene, if you just address some of that when you're back in January on some of the housing you've done in other places for help with facilitating housing for teachers and other workers, that would be helpful for us.
I didn't realize she was back there. She is the queen of.
Yes, and Charlene Wild and Rhett Smith, they're part of the solution. And I guess just before we finish up this item, can I just, as mayor, can I just give one assignment for you? You can choose to accept it or not, but in the spirit of Christmas, I would invite each of you to go home and watch It's a Wonderful Life and kind of consider some of the lessons that we learned there, and maybe how that plays into our moral role to try to be part of a solution that we didn't create, but we can try to resolve. So, Jordan, anything else?
No, I just appreciate your attention to this issue and recognizing it's an issue that affects many people in our community. Like I said, I wasn't coming here with solutions, but there are some solutions that we'll hear about on a future date.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, item 4. This is, do I see our city engineer, Paul Mogul, or Blake, are you handling this one? Or are we having engineering firms handle this one? This is, item 4 is going to be a Main Street interchange update, and then after that, we'll move into item 5, which is related. Blake Fonsbeck, Public Works Director.
Good evening. Yeah, Paul is unable to be here today, and he sent me a text, and so Lee, I don't know his last name. I've just met this first time I've seen him, but he's going to present on the Main Street interchange, and then are you going to present on both? Or? Okay, all right. So we'll bring Lee from Horrocks Engineering. What was your last name?
We know you, Lee. Welcome back. Welcome
Right,
back. Lee Capel with Horrocks, right?
Right. I was gonna say, for better or for worse, they have not had much of a chance to interact with Blake yet in his new role, but yeah, you guys all know who I am. So I don't know. I thought maybe the presentation would be loaded up on the screens. Is it available?
Yeah, we can get that loaded.
Get loaded up. I mean, I do.
Recorder's office or IS can get that. Just give them a sec here, and
that I could
they'll
get
pull up the slides.
Load it up if we needed to. But while we wait for that, yeah, again, Lee Cabell with Horrocks Engineers. Good to be back again. Report on these two projects, these two great transportation projects that Washington City and the Utah Department of Transportation are partnering on together for the community. So I want to report, first we'll talk about the I-15 widening project between Green Springs and Washington Parkway, and the new interchange at Main Street. And then we'll jump into the other project, which is the new interchange on the Southern Parkway out of 3650 South, and jump into those. So,
Right. IT or recorder, can you hear us and bring those to the screen? Do you have the ability to do that?
I believe Steve's getting that loaded right now.
Great. Thanks, Tara.
okay, perfect. So maybe I'll just jump into a couple of things, just kind of some background, and if we skip through the slides when they get up, that's fine. Last time I came and met with you several months ago and kind of explained where we were on the 10 to 13 project. We were kind of halfway through the design, so to speak, right? So on a good news status, I guess the design is complete, it's finalized. If everything, which I think happens, it'll hit the paper this Saturday for advertisement for contractors. The bids are due to the DOT on January 26th, I believe, will be the bid opening. And if all goes well, construction should start on the project probably beginning of March. March is end of February, beginning of March. Sometimes it just depends on the contractor and their experience and how long it takes to get through the contracting process with UDOT, but that's usually about a 4 to 6 week process. So hopefully by beginning of March, construction should start happening. In advance of that construction, actually, you've probably seen already out there that several homes have been, the area has been demolished and cleared to start construction. Of course, with the project we're doing, every utility known to man runs down the Main Street corridor in that area. So there's been a lot of utility work. And so actually starting in January, you'll see outfits like your own Washington City Power Department, Questar Natural Gas, other utilities starting on some early advanced utility relocation work to get some of those utilities out of the way and cleared to make the construction easier for once the widening and the interchange starts. The project is estimated to be, somewhere in the mid $50 million construction project, and it's fully funded, and a healthy part of that contribution. I can't remember came from Washington City as part of the contribution to help move that forward. And I know UDOT's very appreciative of that. The interchange was kind of the final design. I mean, I know at one time in the past, right, there's where's it going to connect to? Are there roundabouts? Are there no roundabouts, right? When we get it up, we'll see it's just a regular interchange, diamond interchange like we're used to seeing. We did, and we're able to successfully realign Main Street from what was shown in the past. Before, you remember, Main Street was kind of connecting the Brio Parkway into that Brio community. We were able to realign Main Street and connect it to the existing Main Street alignment north of Buena Vista. So it'll kind of be a straight shot corridor now up to the northern corridor.
Got a question just while I remember it. Has there been any kind of traffic studies done that would maybe give us an idea of, will it alleviate some pressure off of, say, the Green Springs exit, you think?
Yeah, that was one of the big driving reasons. Trying to remember off the top of my head what the anticipated reduction was. I think it was.
Yeah, I remember 16 or something.
Something like
in
that.
there.
I think it's accessible through this project page on the Washington City website proper. There's a link that you can get to that has the environmental document that was done like a year or so ago. And there's a section in there that really gets into the traffic and some traffic memo to document how that traffic shift is supposed to happen, right? And I know sometimes the numbers, whether it's 10 or 20% is like, wow, for $50 million, that doesn't sound like a lot of traffic. But when you're talking several thousand vehicles a day, with the numbers we're talking about, it does make a difference. So yeah, a big part of this component is the ability to relieve some of that pressure off the Green Spring interchange. Okay, so there's our map. This map shows kind of the overall limits, right? So the project goes all the way from Green Spring Parkway up to Washington Parkway. The two main components are adding another lane on the freeway in each direction, so it'll be 3 lanes in each direction, kind of tying to what's north of Washington Parkway and what's south of Green Spring on the freeway. So
It's a widening from milepost 10 to milepost 13, north and south.
so now when this is done, I mean, throughout the entire community of Washington, you'll have 3 lanes on the freeway in each direction. And then just kind of FYI side note, next year UDOT will be coming out with a design project to add a 3rd lane on the freeway through the rest of the portion of St. George, south of St. George Boulevard. So hopefully within the next 3 years or so, we should see 3 lanes all the way from Bloomington, so to speak, clear up to the turnoff to go to Hurricane on the freeway.
And we just stopped there. Is that wide? We've gotten wide enough, I hope.
Right, hopefully for a while. And then the other component, again, you'll see is the Main Street interchange. So you will see a little difference on the freeway. In some places, the freeway is going to be a little bit closer together with some barrier in there. It has full lights along the freeway at all the on and off ramps, the new on and off ramps, as well as a couple of additional cameras on there to help monitor traffic flow and document things. Let's see, can someone
Go to that
advance
next
the
slide.
Yeah.
Just tell them, next slide.
This is kind of a close-up of the interchange. This shows what I was talking about before is there will be, currently when it opens up, there won't be traffic lights at the bottom of the ramps and Main Street intersections, but the design is all kind of dialed in, so to speak. So when those warrants are met and those traffic volumes get to that point, the signals can easily be installed. So the only signal with the project will be the intersection of Buena Vista and Main Street will be signalized with traffic lights and lighting. Kind of hard to show on this one. The cities and kind of worked with Brio, and they had a detention basin on kind of that northwest corner of the intersection on that southeast corner of the Brio property. Right, we're going through the middle of that detention basin, but we're relocating the detention basin. Worked with the City Public Works Department to relocate a lot of that capacity down where the old Main Street that is abandoned, so it'll kind of be in there. So in terms of meshing in with the city's overall storm drain water master plan and some of the issues we've had in the past on Main Street and drainage and things, that'll all be addressed in there, as well as some other drainage improvements to help drainage in that area. Like I said, then the interchange is lined up so the Main Street continues on a mostly, contiguous Main Street alignment instead of requiring different turns to get on and off and get through.
Which is really exciting, because on our regular meeting tonight, we have another project, and we're going to see that Main Street will tie right in to that as well. So I'm really pleased that you were able to work to realign that away from Brio Parkway. I know a lot of the residents in that neighborhood were not thrilled about that alignment. So this is an understatement, I think, but this is definitely a better, better alignment.
I think it's one of those things that, potentially a little costlier than the other alternative, but in terms of kind of in the theme of what we were talking about in our previous presentation about, the added value that the community gets as a whole from this design from what was in the past is probably a step in the right direction.
And I think it's also important to note that, this elected body here, mayor and council, we weren't really involved in the decision making that, put all of these wheels in motion.
Right.
But we're here now, and we're really trying to get the best we can for our residents, especially those who are affected by it. So, coming into the process after decisions have been made, mostly by UDOT, we're now trying to just do the best we can to facilitate the best interchange we can get.
Yeah.
So will the old bridge be abandoned, or will it still be? Okay.
Will be abandoned. Yeah. The other probably significant feature just to mention is, full ADA compliant sidewalks and everything along the side of Main Street through the interchange, so that will coincide with, we also considered the city's active transportation plan and the design and how this all fit together with that. So the biggest issue you're going to see when construction starts is kind of the timing and the duration of the closure of Main Street. There will be a portion of time for probably we're estimating probably 4 to 6 months. It really depends on kind of the contractor's construction phasing plan that they present as part of their bid. That Main Street will be closed. So I know that's an issue, especially with, the fire station right there and access across the freeway. So we do have a significant components in the requirements of the contract for coordination with the local EMS providers and system to know exactly when that's going to happen, what the durations of that will be, and to make sure that we can try to provide the access as much as possible. But again, it's one of those balances of trying to get the project done expeditiously and most efficiently versus keeping it access. And with the two bridges and everything there so close together, it's just a little bit of a challenge that we're not able to keep a connection across Main Street open for the entire duration of construction. But we do have incentives and we do have time frames that the contractors will be held to in terms of the length of those closures, and incentives in the contractor that they can get some additional funds if they can complete it faster and get it done. So we'll see what happens with that. But throughout construction, there will be 2 lanes open on the freeway in both directions at all times. So the freeway won't be going down one lane. The only exception to that no, there shouldn't be any exceptions to that. They should be able to keep it open the whole time. So that'll be good. Next slide. Just the last bullet on there, the one thing I really wanted to report on back to the council was that the last time we met, there was a lot of discussion about what are the aesthetics and what can we do to the project to make it look good and fit into the theme with what we're trying to accomplish with the city. After that meeting, we got together with the city and a committee that the mayor helped put together from Parks and Leisures and a few other people within the city, and with UDOT landscape aesthetics and landscape architects on our team to put together. So this is really kind of the best we can do until we see it built out there. But so it's really, the structure will be painted, the beams underneath the structure. These are fairly, computer renderized colorings of what it is, but it's kind of a darker red rock type of color that meets a lot of the other interchanges and features that have been in the city. You can see there's provisions on the abutment retaining walls around the city for the city to put a logo on to kind of designate the interchange. We talked about that last time. There's an aesthetic pattern, kind of a mountain pattern that attempts cliffs, that attempts to mimic
Cliffs and vistas, yes.
kind of the skyline of some of the buttes and the bluffs and the
In
cliffs
fact,
in the area.
the next slides are going to show that better, but this actually, and I look at this room full of city employees and I see so much contribution as part of this committee, but that particular one on those noise sound walls, Jordan actually sketched that out, just to mimic the horizon of the red cliffs and some of those pretty, red and gray and black vistas through here. So
next slide. So yeah, this kind of just shows the detail of kind of what the texturing
and that
and the
faux
coloring.
rock, we mimicked that, I think, from a place was it Moab? I believe they have a similar in
Moab, stuff
Moab.
like that. And again, a spot there for the city to, there'll be a kind of a logo signature sign on there. So, these structure designs have a kind of a 70-year plus design life. So, you're not allowed to change your logo for a while.
You say
Just
that,
kidding.
but you guys are into them every 4 to 5. So
Right. Yeah, we'll be back in a few years. Next slide. So this kind of shows that mimicking the mayor talked about the natural terrain and the sound wall patterns. So this is a sound wall pattern. There's there's several thousand feet of noise walls along the project. This pattern will be both on the inside of the noise wall, so people driving up and down the freeway will see that pattern, as well as the community on the outside of the noise walls looking at them will also see this pattern on both sides of the noise walls. Next slide. The up and down is kind of a fractured fin pattern, they call it, that kind of has some relief and up and down. So as the light moves across the day, the shadows will change on the wall a little bit. And so it just kind of shows a representation of what that's going to look like. Next slide. This kind of shows an overall.
Can you go back real quick just to and I'm sorry to go back a couple more slides just to the overall aesthetics. One more. Thank you. And if I'm passionate about this, it's only because those in the room who were part of this committee, we worked so hard to get this. Okay, so originally it was not colored concrete. It was none of these features. It was going to just be ugly gray concrete with not much character. So if I'm just enjoying this moment for a minute, it's only because we worked so hard to get there.
Right, well, and a good, like I said, a good chunk of that was possible because of the contribution that the city helped make toward the project.
Well,
to be
and
able
and
to
and that, and
customize it to the
really,
community.
really good communication with Horrocks and with the representatives at UDOT, and there was just some really good, back and forth to get to where we got, especially in such an inflationary period where it made it more challenging to do so. But I think we've come up with really a nice design that we're going to be proud of for years to come. And you can go back forward now,
Scroll
Steve.
ahead to a few more slides. Where were we? Oh, right here. So this kind of shows there's kind of two different landscaping concepts. So one of the concepts in the aesthetics is the freeway corridor itself, where you're going to see the noise walls and kind of those patterns and colors on the bridge. Right. The other component of the project is the Main Street and the Buena Vista element, and that design is reflecting more of the current design of the recent Main Street project to kind of incorporate that. So if you go to the next slide. Inside, maybe a little hard to see, inside of the freeway areas in between the ramps and the freeway, there'll be, some different landscaping with decorative rock and plantings. The cut slopes will be landscaped as well in some of the infield areas with some different native seed mixes and some different plantings we've showed. The next slide, please. So this kind of shows some of the different rock styles and patterns and colors and textures of what's going to go into the project. We do have more of I can get you, and Paul has access to it as well, the detailed design plans. From an engineering design standpoint, they're all black and white, and it just shows a dot where a bush is supposed to be, right? So it's hard to tell exactly what those bushes will look like in the rock colors, but this gives you an idea what those are. Next slide.
Yeah, and our Paul Walker has just so talented and so detailed with where every plant's going to be placed, the color and style of rock and of the landscaping elements.
Yeah. So that's probably been the biggest change in completion from when the last time I met was just the diving into the landscaping to get it and the aesthetics to get it to match more with what's happening in the community, and hopefully that be it.
And you'll notice that those are desert friendly, kind of native landscape that are water efficient, and which is nice because you don't want to get in and out of there more than you have to.
Yeah, right. There's definitely a balance. I'm glad the mayor likes it so much, since he will be responsible for maintaining and taking care of it. So, but yeah, any opportunities to try to reduce maintenance and reduce exposure of parks people and things having to be out in traffic and take care of weeding or whatever, right? To try to keep that as efficient and clean as we can. I think that's the last slide on the 10 to 13 projects. So
did I hear that the Joshua trees are going to come from the Iversons Ranch? Did I hear that? Somebody told me that.
I can neither
Possibility.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
But we're thinking completion then potentially by December of 23.
So, yeah, substantial completion, which especially the biggest challenge is when you get in the past about Thanksgiving, you just kind of know that the temperatures, a temperature like this week, and if there's some final paint and some things that need to go down, it's too cold, and sometimes it might push some of that to the spring. But the goal is to have the bulk of it done and open to traffic and fully functioning by the end of the year. And then
Bid opening in January.
January 26th.
And hopefully construction begins in March. Yep. If the timeline follows. Okay.
Yep. Lee, pretty good for that.
Lee, just a quick question. I think we've had many public meetings, but this is a good one if people want to see what it's going to look like. We've talked about having an open house that we can invite people who live near the area to come to. Are we to the point now where this is the plan? It's a good point to bring people in and have them discuss.
One of the other opportunities, the kind of the annual Dixie Transportation Expo is coming up on February 7th, I believe, down at the Dixie Center. And so we definitely have an opportunity there to either create some different graphics and show some different things that we could show at that expo that would kind of, I think UDOT is planning to have some information there related to the project that would kind of show that final design and some of those colors and some of that information about construction. But if there's additional, more community specific things that you'd like to do, we can definitely help out with that.
Well, occasionally, despite all of our public meetings, we get accused of doing things in the dark, and we don't want that to be the case.
Right.
But I think the transportation meeting might be just the right chance to catch anyone who wants to. Maybe we could advertise that in our newsletter and push it out there to get people to that event, so they can get more than just this interchange. But it's important for people to see it, know what's coming,
Right.
the impacts they're going to see.
I think there's probably some additional information, maybe some specifics or some renderings, similar to what I've shown tonight, that we could get up on the city's project webpage as well. If you feel like that would be helpful, we can work with Paul and your IT group to get some additional information on the webpage.
Please, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. Perfect. We can do that.
Further comments, questions before I move on to item 5? Anything else on this item, Lee?
I don't think so. Probably the next biggest thing is we'll just kind of the public involvement group that will be involved through construction, just kind of coordinating with Paul and Blake and their staff in terms of just and Lester on all the different components, just notifications of when things are going to be happening, and try to give you as much notice as possible when something might be closed or something might be moved or something like that.
Okay, excellent. We'll move on to item 5. This is the George Washington, formerly 3650 South, but George Washington Boulevard Extension and Southern Parkway Interchange.
Yes.
Lee Cabell.
I misspoke earlier, 3650 South. I think on my slides show the right name of the street now. This location again is over there on the Southern Parkway at the far east end of George Washington Boulevard. You'll see our project is basically just the interchange is what's showing on there. We are working hand in hand with the city and the firm that they have that's also kind of at the same time that we are designing the extension of George Washington Boulevard from where it ends kind of at Camino Real over to the interchange. And so we've been working and coordinating with them on utilities and road design and layout and profile and everything. And they've been very good to work with. So I think that's coming together. Next slide. Again, as of now, we're about 70% complete of the design, the layout of the interchange, the ramps, the bridge, the cross streets, all that is complete. In January, we will be having our kind of final, our PS&E meeting is about a 90-95% design review meeting, with the anticipation that in late February, the project will be ready to go out for advertisement for construction. Right now, we're at about $15.5 million project of about $13 million construction cost. Fortunately, there's not a whole lot of utilities in there. Dixie REA has been great to work with, and the power line that runs right along there, and we figured out how to miss all the power line and get it woven in there and get it taken care of. So that's kind of where we're at on that one. So again, that construction may not be starting till later in the year, and would probably run across, through the winter and into next year potentially before it could get done.
Is that interchange going over the parkway? Or is it under?
Yes, so the interchange, the bridge will be on the Southern Parkway. So Southern Parkway will go over the top. Under? Yes. Oh, that's right. It's going under. It's the cross street. Cross street is going under. The Southern Parkway is going over the top. So the bridge will be on the Southern Parkway, and George Washington Boulevard goes underneath the parkway. We had to do that because there was just no way to get the road go over the top of the Southern Parkway and meet the clearance requirements and miss that big transmission power line that was going under there. So we did have to, we are raising the grade of the Southern Parkway about 4 feet higher than where it's going to be to allow that cross street to go underneath there and help with the drainage and put it all together, and it saves some excavation costs associated with that.
And I know these numbers are
Next slide.
preliminary, but the latest estimate, we put 15.5 as the total, and then construction at 13 million. What's the difference in those two
So
numbers?
a lot of that is just
Contingency or-
construction management fees, contingency fees, engineering design fees.
And the 13 is the hard construction estimate.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay.
Where we're at now. We'll get that refined when we get to that January meeting a little bit more. We've talked about you know, UDOT kind of refers to the Southern Parkway as barrels, in which the two direction, right? A lot of it you can see has been designed, and like in this area, right, they paved what they call the northbound barrel, or the northbound side of the freeway, and the south side of the expressway, excuse me, was graded for future asphalt, but it wasn't built yet, right? So they call each of those separated directions barrels. But the road will be, the interchange will be built on the northbound barrel, so to speak, is where the bridge will be. So the George Washington Boulevard and the interchange and everything else is built so that in the future, all they'll have to do is come and put the bridge in the southbound direction over the top of what's over there. Shouldn't have to mess with anything on George Washington Boulevard. Just stick the bridge in, pave it, retie the connection of the ramps into the new southbound barrel when that happens, and move forward. So a lot of forward compatibility built into the design to also help, you know, do what we can to minimize the cost of future expansion when the other half of the Southern Parkway will be built.
Do you have any schedule on that, Lee? I mean, there's nothing in the time frame
There's
right now.
nothing programmed in the UDOT system yet for any of that. I know they're already talking about it. It's just a lot of the growth and things that happen. I think the volumes on the Southern Parkway are
They're getting busy.
getting busier than they thought they would be sooner. So I know they're starting to talk about that.
I'm just happy they graded it. I think it makes so much sense to get that lane graded and set, and then just go put in the asphalt when you need it. So I appreciate UDOT thinking ahead on that.
Another component, and there'll be future things coming along. There's a 5-foot sidewalk on the north side of George Washington Parkway underneath this structure, and then there's a 10-foot multi-use path on the south side of George Washington Parkway that will kind of connect and tie Boulevard that will connect into the city's active transportation plan, as well as some of you may be familiar with the active transportation plan that UDOT did for the Southern Parkway last year. And there's some components of this that will tie into that. And then, so again, try to handle all roads of that. Next, and then it's built for, you know, for a ultimate build out of 5 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, and a center turn lane on George Washington Boulevard. From an aesthetic standpoint, this is what the Long Valley Road interchange looks like. So when you're on Long Valley Road going underneath Southern Parkway, you know, not near as fancy, so to speak, but kind of some colored concrete to match the terrain. The concrete paving of the slopes and the kind of natural native vegetation around the sides. The next slide shows basically this same treatment at the Warner Valley Road intersection, which are the 2 interchanges, you know, on each side of this one. The next slide is a little close up. There is some patterning of some aesthetics on the parapets on the bridge. At this stage, that's the same concept that's going to apply at this new interchange. So, you know, a little bit of color on it, but the same concrete slopes, but none of the decorative rock mulch and the special landscaping and signs and stuff like that. So basically when it gets done, if you want to see what it's going to look like as of today, if you want to see what it's going to look like, just go look at Warner Valley Road or Long Valley Road, and that's basically what it's going to look like when it's done. I think that's all the slides I had on that project. So again, schedule, hopefully construction start mid to third quarter and go through next year.
Before you sit down, is there anything you can share with this council about Horrocks' work on George Washington Boulevard on the St. George side of the road?
Yes, a little bit. This George, I mean, the city of St. George, I believe.
Referring to the bridge over the river.
Yeah. The city of St. George, I believe, had an item on their recent city council to approve a design contract. You know, hallelujah, with Horrocks Engineers, right, to design the bridge. So kind of in a combination of us and Rosenberg Associates. Rosenberg is designing a lot of the road from River Road toward the freeway.
Yeah, punching it west, the
to
extension
the west.
west.
And then Horrocks is designing the bridge over the Virgin River, which will be probably in magnitude something similar to the Mall Drive Bridge over the Virgin River. It's, you know, it's going to be 1,000-foot long bridge or something that will tie into there. And then where it ties into that 270 East Dixie Drive thing, it'll be realigned, so that'll be a straight shot to the Dixie Drive.
It'll connect into
interchange
Dixie
Freeway. Yeah. So if that all goes as planned, design on that will start next year. I'm not exactly sure on where the city sits from a funding standpoint in terms of when construction money would be available, but I know they're anxious to make it happen, somewhat congruent with this project as much as we can, because once this gets built and with the recent realignment around the new LDS temple out there, and that'll be a new important continuous east-west corridor from one side of the valley to the other to connect those communities and really provide a lot of traffic alleviation on Riverside Drive and River Road and a couple of those other projects. So again, I do not know the details of their funding, but I know their design is starting next year.
Excellent. Great update, Lee.
Thank you for that. I know that when the mayor and others worked really hard on this new road name and kind of the collaborative effort between the cities, the concept of it connecting was there, but it feels like it's coming pretty quick. And so I was excited to see that news.
Yeah, we feel like it's clever and fitting, and we're glad to see that it's expanding both ways. It really does connect. This road particularly will connect us clear over to the western side when it ties into Dixie Drive. So this is an important 85-foot road that will go right underneath your new intersection.
Yeah, a good project.
Interchange.
Right? I mean, we're growing and we're getting big enough that a lot of the easy buttons have been pushed with our roads and corridors, and keep providing that connectivity and accommodating that growth. We're having to start to deal with a few more of our natural challenges with topography that exists in our area, but good projects and good things.
Well, Lee, we really appreciate the updates on both of these projects. I mean, it's possible that a year from now we'll see you on site on North Main for our ribbon cutting, and we just really appreciate you and all those who've worked on this project. And we really thank you and wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. And just one last note, I think we are working with Blake and Paul and their crew to have some information regarding this interchange in the city's booth at the Transportation Expo as well. So
Fantastic. And we'll help get that promoted. I love the manager's idea of referring our residents over there to the expo, and then to have some more detailed information on this project there. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, thank you for your time, and of course, individually or anytime, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me about these projects, and I'm always happy to come back and give another update at some point in time if you'd like. So thank you for that, and thank you for all your cooperation and collaboration on these projects, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you. Okay, our last agenda item tonight is number 6. This is an exciting project update list by our Leisure Services Director, Barry Blake, and I see a few of his staff here in the audience as well. So we're really looking forward to that. You got about 30 minutes, Barry. Unless we all feel like we need to go over time, and we may with all this work you've been doing.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Mr. Red. It's good to be here today. I have passed you out a hard copy of this so that as I'm doing this presentation and going over these projects, I'm going to try to go over them as quickly as I can and get through them. I've made my own notes to kind of explain, some other details that I maybe anticipate there was questions on. But if there are other things that you have questions on, please just note them down there. And then if we have time after, then I can answer those, or you can email me or text me or call me, or, I can take care of those questions. But I tried to anticipate maybe answering some of those ahead of time. We'll move right along. The first project is one that we completed in July. That's the driving range at Green Spring Golf Course. We doubled the size of the driving range. It was quite a project. We had to move the bunkers, not the bunkers, but the tee boxes to the south side of the cart path there to make room for this expansion. And as you can see, there's one more picture, I believe, that shows kind of how big it is. It's 55,000, almost 60,000 square feet, so it's over an acre, and it really has helped us out to move things around. It's a great asset to our golf course to have people come up there and play off the grass and be able to hit off the grass, and we can go in there and have them on one section, and then when that gets beat up, we can move them. It's big enough we can move them somewhere else and then repair that. So this is an area that's always under repair, but it's so big that we can move people around and do that. And so that's one of the reasons why we wanted it as big as it is, and it's been a great benefit for the golf course. The next one is the Major League Baseball lighting. I think these lights are probably 50 years old. They dated before I came here. They needed to be done, extremely needed. The old poles are down, and the new poles and the fixtures have been delivered. Next slide, I think, shows the holes being dug for the posts. They're working on those right now. We should have those posts in the ground, the lights up by the end of the year. We're working with some other things on this project, with some sound and scoreboards and things like that, but that's anticipated to be done before the end of the year. So we're really close on that. The next one is an exciting one. This is the Sunrise Valley Park, also known as Red Waters area. We had a delay in this due to changing our irrigation system, which was a bad thing, but also a very good thing. We've redesigned that, and that's all now in the ground to accommodate secondary water down the road. And so we're progressing with this now again. The bathroom is complete. The 10-foot perimeter trail is complete all the way around, except for a couple of sections where they still have to access to do all the work inside. And they'll finish those sections off at the very end. Also, the pickleball court is not only poured, but the fencing is up on it now. The basketball court is poured. Trees and the shrubs are being planted. And as you can see, the park lighting was going up. It kind of looked like the raising of the flag. But also the playground equipment is here. And so we anticipate most of this being done. The biggest part for us opening up is going to be putting in the grass and getting that grown in before the public goes in there. I know that there'll be people using that park before we have the final grand opening, but we're looking at having that grand opening on Friday, April 7th for that park. Next one is the park's cemetery and maintenance building. As you can see, this is going up quickly now. The foundations, electrical, all the plumbing inside the building is complete, at least going into the building. The concrete has been poured, the block has been delivered. As you can see in these next slides, it's really going up fast now. Matter of fact, this is probably a few days ago, so it's progressed a lot more than this now. We anticipate opening this building in July of 2023. The next one is the golf course pump station. This was one that's it's been a long time. We ordered this pump station when we came into the new budget in 21. It was supposed to be delivered to us before last winter. They had a shortage on parts. We couldn't get the pump station. It finally got to us in June, which was too hot to put it in. And so we had to accommodate. We had to change the roof and make it into a convertible roof. And we did all that work in anticipation for this. Everything's been delivered to us, and we had to wait until right now. On your sheet, it says that we would start this or have this done in January. This is being done right now. We had a weather that came in that we got a lot of moisture, and it cooled off. We were able to shut down all the water at the golf course and do this. So this project will be done in just within a week. So
That's not the Sullivan well. Which well is that?
so that is the Sullivan. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not the Sullivan well. That's the pump station. The Sullivan well is up to the west of this that comes down into those ponds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fed from the
This is
Sullivan well.
what pumps from.
This pulls it out of that pond. The Green Spring also is piped up to these ponds. So this is where the turbines are. That you can see the units being pulled out. There's turbines on top of those that turn those and pull the water up. This is over 30 years old. It's needed to be, we've just been band-aiding and trying to get it to stay alive, and it had to be done. But that pressurizes the system. So this is a great thing also. This is all secondary water. This is no culinary water. Our golf course is on a well and on the springs.
And our grass is
Quite a few
Bermuda.
different. Yeah, we have bent grass on the greens and rye. We have Bermuda, but then we overseed it with rye every winter to keep it nice and green. And it's a lot of work, but they do a great job up there. And this is something that has been needed, and now we're completing it. We're almost done. The next one, the dog park edition. So this is the plan. This is the whole thing all together on yes, the left-hand side as I'm looking at it is the new edition. The only changes we've made after showing it and talking with the council and the neighborhood is where it shows the fencing. Matter of fact, we go to probably some of the slides. That fence right there is on the north side that's already in place. We're going to extend this up. It goes up to where the wood fence is. There's some grade difference there, which we'll have to step it up, and then there'll still be a little bit of slope, but we'll slope that down to where the grass is at from where the wall is going to be. And that'll be done with rock landscaping. But that wall will match that up and have that all the way on the west and then all the way on the south. So that'll all be walled in other than the fencing that's done from the parking lot and in between where the other dog park is. So
on the current section, it's chain link with slats.
mhm.
On
That,
the new
well, that's
section
just the
on that
slats on the
side.
south, and then it's just chain link all around the powder coated black. This will all be wall now. So we've redone that. We're going to bid on this. Let me just go through these things. So we're advertised for bids on January 4th. Pre-bid meeting will be on Monday, January 8th. The bid opening will be on Wednesday, January 18th, and then we'll come to the city council to award that bid on the 25th of January. So that's right away that we'll advertise for that and get going. We anticipate this project to be done and open in June of this year, of next year, of 2023. Like I said, the biggest change is the block walls that we're putting in, which was necessary for the neighbors. When we built the dog park originally, the first phase, there was nobody there. And so those the people that moved there, they knew what they were getting when they moved there. Those people that are there now that we're doing on this other section, they're already there. And so we're coming in. And so we wanted to give them some privacy and
Block
make it a little
wall
better.
along that south side.
The south side, the west
full-
side, and the north side. Yeah,
And
so
then
that'll
what
all
about
be
the
blocked.
existing length on the south side? We're just leaving that how it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That existing is already there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we're just tying in that with the block.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Got
a whole different project. Okay, the Wills Park. Well, no, the canal trailhead. This is the canal. Let me just read this. So this is what you're going to see here. This is kind of a other entities are involved in this. So we have turned in our trailhead application to the BLM. We received back from the BLM the interdisciplinary team checklist, which is 14 pages long. It goes over all the different elements, all the different people that need to be involved with this, which includes the cultural and the environmental. There's just a bunch of them. And so we're working through this right now with our consultant, with Jill Hankins, who's doing the studies and kind of heading that out for us. So we're working through all that right now. As soon as we get through the checklist and get the approvals for that, then we will go ahead with the construction drawings and do that when we have permission from the BLM to do that. There's no need going forward until we have that permission. So that's where we're at on that. The next one is the Wills Park. You've all seen these slides before. The rough design plan is complete. We are reviewing the contract from Spawn Ranch. We've already got the prices in from them. We reviewed it. Our attorney has looked at that. He had some suggestions, some things that he noticed in there that we have addressed now and sent back those to Spawn to look at and to address. So we're waiting for that to come back. The soil testing is done. They dug holes for where all the bowls were going to be. We had to make sure that the soil was good. We didn't want things cracking and all that kind of things. Also where the splash pad is at and the bathrooms, all those have been tested. They didn't, all the testing's not quite done yet, but they anticipate everything's good. All the digging they did and they didn't find any problems. So we anticipate that's going to be good. So we're working on a grading plan also in conjunction with the BLM and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is the NCRS. So just for your information, I'm not sure, well, I guess this slide's pretty good. So we know where the dam is that goes all around this basin. We met with the NCRS, a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, over at Rosenberg. So the NCRS within a year is going to come in and take that whole dam down. Where all that basin is. They've come in and they found some cracks, some leaks where they could have problems, and so they are in the process of right now getting all that paperwork done, all the permits, all that to do that. We visit with them. We're going to do this in conjunction with our park. The only place where it's going to affect us is on where the BMX dirt area is at. So we will build everything else out. All the concrete, all those areas will be done.
I just need some clarification. They're rebuilding the dam, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not taking it out.
They're taking it down and rebuilding it.
Back up.
They're back up.
Okay.
Yeah, they're rebuilding. Yeah, it's got to be there. So they have to take it down. It's gonna go right where that BMX course is at. They're just taking it down, piling it up, and then with their design, they're going to put it back but that's going to happen all the way around that. And so we have to, it's a timing with them. This is a really technical project with all the people that are involved in it. And so, this project's not going to be completed for a couple of years. We're looking at, fall of 2024. By the time we get everything done and coordinate and get it, everything complete. But we're well underway with it and hope to start grading. I think we set we'll start grading the bottom part, which is in our property. That's BLM. We've got permission to do that. And we'll grade a bunch of that, bring it up. So we're going to raise our 14 acres 2 feet, which will take it up out of a major flooding area. Unless we get a huge event, they anticipate that we won't really get anything in that top area. So that's where we're at with that project. The canal trail. I don't have any pictures for the canal trail, but we're working with the canal company and on a canal agreement. We're working on the overall route and the trail as it pertains to the property, working closely with the Canal Board, Alliance Consulting, of course, Thad Segmiller and our city manager, Jeremy Redd, and Mayor Staley have all had a lot to do with that project. And that's just something that we're working through a lot of different issues, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer on it. Mill Creek Trail, same, but I don't have any slides on this, but the Sunrise Engineering is working on the easement surveying and trail alignment. Once that work is done, then we'll start to get the final design and contract drawings on that. The Covington home. So this is a project that we're looking at right now to kind of do. We had 3 different parking lot designs. This is the one that works by far the best. We also, in conjunction with this, have a shed or a shop that sits back. You can see it. Well, that's something that is what we want built on top of that shop, so it makes it look nice. There's the shop that sits back there. So we've got that to deal with. We also have acquired, has been donated to the city, the Bishop Storehouse. Which we just got word they've cleaned that out now. There's a bunch of stuff inside there. We'd like that to also go on this project. I talked about it originally. Go back to the other slide, Paul. One more. For the parking lots, that one more. So I originally thought it might be good where the wall is on that north side, back behind the Covington home, to maybe take part of that wall out, that fencing, and put the Bishop Storehouse flush with that so that people from the back could come into that. That Bishop Storehouse is too big to be able to do that and get people through the parking and work. So probably the best place for that would be back toward where the shop is at. Or I think probably the best place is in the southeast corner of this lot that we have. Yeah, we can move. We have the ability to move everything back at least 5 more feet, which would give us room to do that. So anybody that comes to that parking or comes to the Covington home could actually access it right off the sidewalk, and we could do that with the landscaping. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing with that. That house originally, not a house, but the Bishop Storehouse came from just across the street from where this Covington home was. It was removed from there, I think, 1950 something in the 50s, and taken down by the Virgin River on a farm where it was discovered, and we were let know about it and jumped at the chance to go see it.
Yes,
and
we did.
It's a really neat historical little building. Anyway, we'd like to take that up there and have it part of that, because that's where it came from. 15 feet by 15 feet. So it's about 15 feet across and about 15 feet deep. Yeah, it's really neat. You go inside, so that you can see a few things that will, of course, take off some of the lights and electrical stuff that's on there. The only other thing that's been added, it's all wood, is there's a tin roof, but there's a wood roof underneath it. Inside, the way it's built with little slots, so the rooms, they can slide the walls and move them on these little slots and make one room smaller and one room bigger. I guess if they had, something that came in that they had to store and then distribute, they could make more space for, it's kind of a neat pioneer Bishop Storehouse design. And what we understand, it was John D. Lee that built this Bishop Storehouse for the first Bishop Covington.
So it's coming pretty close to home.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So it belongs on that site. So the biggest question we have on this is, where we want to bring this to the council for wrap tax, but of course the most important thing is get the parking in. Where we go from there, we'll have some prices of what it would cost to maybe put the roof and make the shop back there look good, to tie it in. We don't want something looking really bad back there. Eventually we'd like to get it done, but so that, and then also a bathroom. We'd like to do just a little bathroom, just a one room, handicap accessible. It will sit to the east of the Covington home as you pull in. Not on this lot, but on the actual lot where the Covington home is at. That's where the sewer comes down. We put it right there where that driveway is. So if we ever had events or different things there later on, we would have a handicap accessible out bathroom. Would make it look like a little outhouse. We'd try to tie that in with the what they would have had at that time. And so we'll have prices on those things. And so that'll be a decision that the council will make when we bring that to you, with prices of what do you want to do? Can we do this now and do these later, or do you want to do it all at once, or things like that? So we'll bring that to you in January. The last thing we have, the Temple landscape area. We don't have any pictures on this either, but this has been turned over to Will Barnes and Associates, who I know you've worked with. He's the one that is doing all the work on the George Washington Boulevard. And it was only fitting for him to do his work and things on that too. So he's doing the design and things for that acreage right there by the temple.
Yeah, and this is just a little remnant piece from the realignment of the road that really wasn't usable other than for the primary objective of this, and it's fine to call it the Temple landscape area, but the primary objective of this is really an entrance, a signage into Washington City. And so when we met with Will and Bill and their group, considering what our future of our downtown might look like, we got talking about this remnant piece, and they showed some design of a sign that they'd seen in another place that we thought could be really neat, really attractive, that would kind of incorporate a bit of a cotton ball and kind of some of that farming heritage of that area. So I'm looking forward to all of us seeing, what that design is.
It's a pretty big piece. I would say right around an acre. And so it's
It's a little triangular and big roads on both sides, so it's tough for any other use.
and they're talking about putting a pretty substantial, beautiful sign in there, which is not a cheap project. But I know that when they come back with that it'll be a beautiful.
It'll
design.
really dress up, and it'll be a statement piece for when you enter Washington.
I'm just excited we're doing something because I was like, and I feel like I want to just drive straight every time, and
It's going to be it'll be really nice.
nothing there.
We've walked it.
I've
We've
been
looked
meaning to
at it.
ask, what are we doing? But I'm glad we're doing something.
We've all talked about it. We walked it, looked at it, had ideas.
We've kicked the
I'm
tires a little.
excited to see what it's going to be. I'm excited to see it. Those guys are really talented, and I look forward to it. The last one I'm also excited for. This is one that we just jumped on and just had a.
This is
Couple
Councilman
weeks to
Henderson's
figure it out.
idea here.
So this is awesome. And this is a temporary, we know that this won't be here forever, but when the home gets taken down there and that lot is available for use, we have designed, and Paul was a big part of this. We went and walked it and looked at all the things that were there, and then put some drawings together that he did. Then we sent those up to Bill Jackson, and Paul was on his computer and I was on mine and Bill was on his. So we were 3 separate places and just started putting things together. Bill did this for free. He did this pro bono for us, and so we appreciate that. But there's some neat things there. The rock wall where it's talking about where those cars are parked to the north of the parking lot. That's there. Most of it is there.
Original sandstone.
And it looks really good. I mean, we're going to have to rebuild part of it and make it nicer. So we're going to use that as part of this. And then just to the right of that is a little. It's not really a pavilion. It's not bad. We'll use it as a pavilion. And we're going to keep that there. I think they pulled the vehicles underneath there. We could probably put 4 tables there. So we'll fix that up, make it look really nice. We've got 30 parking spots in there. This will be road base and just some colored chat. It shows trees planted, which we won't plant trees. There's some trees planted already to the south there where that parking is. But we'll keep the lawn area and we'll put some tables out there. It shows tables right now on the corner of Main Street, which those tables won't be there. We'll move those over to the lawn. We wanted we wanted the food trucks toward the north where the street's at, so we could kind of buffer people before they're coming from the south and not getting by the street. We don't want kids running out there or different things. So we kind of designed it that way. So those tables we will pull off there and bring down. So that's kind of the conceptual for that. We're going to do that all in-house with the city crews and so it will be not very expensive.
I love the idea, but just don't make it too nice because then we'll get yelled at when we take it out. So
I think that's
maybe we should
too
put a
valuable
sign up
piece of
that says
property to-
temporary area forever. 'Cause
Well,
we'll get yelled at once we make it too nice.
the only concrete that's going to be there is existing. So there's existing
Man, all of a sudden,
concrete.
this looks pretty nice, Barry. All of a sudden, it morphs into
it's
we're
road
never
base.
getting rid of it.
It's
Hey, can
road
you cut
base.
that from 10,000 to 9?
Just bring down that cost a little bit
These
more.
the ornamental trees you see, they're just in pots, and so we're gonna just have those. We can move them around. We're not gonna plant trees. We're just basically taking existing that's gonna be there, keeping the grass, doing some improvements, and making it a place where they can use.
Some more parking for the post office. I'm just kidding. Okay,
Which we
sorry,
might have to.
bring
We
that
might
up.
have to do something about that when we
There's
do
a
this.
lot of room to load buggies right in there.
This is a classic Washington City Parks Department project. It makes Barry feel like he's 20 years ago, under $10,000, and he'll make it look so nice that we're afraid that
It's
think it's
fun.
here to stay.
Paul, is this enjoyable? So Paul's had a lot to do with it, and these are things that really, when you take a piece of property that is just
Historic.
historic, but in the condition that everything's in right now, at least to see it being used even if it's on a temporary basis. You know, that's what we do it for. We don't build things so that people don't use them. We do it so that they get used, and we push that use and we program it. And so, of course, we anticipate that this will be used.
And we'll be out there to shovel the gravel, and we'll help.
So if this is a 20 years ago project, I would like to say I think we'll have the nicest dog park in the county. And there's no doubt we have the nicest public driving range in Washington County. And that's
By far. Yeah.
the work that our Parks Department has done on some of these projects it's noticeable if you use them, like the driving range. It is phenomenal driving range. There's nothing like it in the county.
Well, and the
they've
revenue
just
for
done a
that
great
too.
job.
I mean, it gets so much more use, and people come to our driving range. Matter of fact, they have tournaments other places. They'll come to our driving range to hit before the tournament somewhere else because they want to hit off the grass instead of off pads. So
The nice part about a driving range is it's big enough that you never miss either. You'll always hit grass.
I've hit not grass that I've hit some water.
And I guess last, I mean, that's all of it. But we just want to say thank you. We appreciate your support on all the things that we do. It's a pleasure to work with the city and make improvements for the city. This is a great place to live, and the quality of life is what we try to improve here. So, any questions? We can do it now, or you can contact me, or however you want to do it.
I think I speak for all of us, Barry, when, the feeling's mutual. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the work that you and your department do. And we remain committed to these things that add to our quality of life. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple more of these if anybody wants them. Thank you.
Well, it is officially 5:30. Call for a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Gonna give you a second.
We stand adjourned for 30 minutes. We'll reconvene at 6 p.m. for the regular meeting.
Everything's getting more expensive right now. It's crazy.
I am Pastor Joe, yes.
Good to see you. So glad you're here. And you know, this is the perfect meeting. It's the last one of the year.
I will have to apologize. I'm stuff just from Carolyn.
That's perfect. Thank you for making this work. You're
Hey,
right.
no worries.
You're right
No
at the
worries.
start. And so just do your thing.
Okay.
Do whatever the thing is that you do.
You let me know when and I'll do it.
And you're right. You're basically lead off back.
Okay.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm going to give you your full name, though, okay? You know people like that.
Yeah,
Or do I-
Joe, you have it probably written down.
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
However you do it, that's fine.
Okay. Perfect.
Keeps you young.
I guess he's got a little. No, I think he's got a little Florida glow. Yeah, yeah.
Did you make it to Sanibel or was it still closed? Did you make it to Sanibel?
You and Mickey.
Okay, we'll get started here momentarily. We're just waiting on a few to get back downstairs from our break.
Oh yeah. You can easily blow a week.
You were missed last week.
How you doing? Oh.
You look festive tonight.
Well, yeah, no. It's just the regular old beige cushion.
Thank you. Your sponsor, very nice.
It's the last meeting of the year. It's been a good 2022 for Washington. I don't have any good jokes. I'm just burning 30 seconds here. Okay, we have a quorum. Councilmember Casperson will be right back, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Mayor Cress Staley. We're here in the Washington City Council chambers at City Hall. Today is Wednesday, December 14th. It's just after 6 p.m. Our meetings are also broadcast live and for playback later on our washingtoncity.org/meetings, our YouTube station. We'll get started with an invocation from Pastor Joe Doherty with the New Promise Lutheran Church as part of the Interfaith Council. Pastor Joe.
Thank you, Mayor Staley and council members. It's an honor to close out the year with the invocation for your last meeting this year. So let's pray. Holy God, we ask your blessing on this meeting, on the people who've been called to lead the community in which we live and work and play. Help those here who are tasked with solving problems for our community, not only to ask, how do we fix this, but also, what do we need to learn? How might we need to change, and to whom do we need to listen? Remember that you are not only leaders, but servants, and that it is your responsibility, as it is ours, to serve the common good. Grant leaders and citizens alike the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it's time to listen. May they and we always be guided by your Spirit, the Spirit of community, the Spirit of justice, and the Spirit of love. This we pray in the name of our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Joe, and enjoy caroling with your church group. I've asked Councilmember Brett Henderson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Councilmember Casperson will be right back. But at this time, I would just like to excuse Councilmember Ivy from our meetings this evening. He is traveling with family. He has a daughter in New York, and he is currently on his way back and wishes he could be there. So we appreciate all that Councilman Ivy does, and just want to excuse him from this meeting tonight. Also, for any of you who are here for item 7B and 7C on the agenda, that was the project that consisted of a proposed zone change for planned unit development, including apartments. So items 7B and 7C, the applicant has asked that those be pulled and removed from the agenda. So at this time, council, I will call for a motion to approve this agenda that includes removing of items 7B and 7C.
Mayor, may I have a clarification on the poll? They pulled their application altogether, or they've asked to table?
That's my understanding. Drew, do you have anything?
New application. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Well, and I appreciate that because it's the exact question I asked, but I'm just wanting to make sure too. So with that said, I'll call for that motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as outlined, minus pulling items 7B and C based on the applicant's request.
I have a motion by Councilman Coates.
Second.
Second by Councilman Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our agenda is approved. Just a few announcements. We've, as a mayor and council, we've enjoyed interacting with the city. A lot of them have had Christmas parties by department. Maybe they saved the best for last. There's a Christmas barbecue at Public Works tomorrow at noon where they've invited us to come, and so be welcome to join them and be among some of the hardest working people in our city. If you have a minute to sneak down there and eat and wish them a happy holidays. On Friday, December 16th here at 7:45 a.m., we'll be hosting some of our existing and newly elected state officials. So Jordan Hess, our public affairs officer, has arranged that. So we'll be here for a little bit that morning, having some breakfast and a little bit of interaction with them. A dear friend of ours who pulled the tractor for us in the parade, Tommy Cooper, recently passed away unexpectedly. His graveside service will be at 11 a.m. on Friday morning. and I've worked with the police department to lead a tractor processional from his house up to the cemetery, and Tommy worked as an honorary volunteer firefighter for a period of time. So our fire department will be up there and ready to honor him at the gravesite as well. So if you have time to make that, you'd be welcome there. On Saturday morning, December 17th, Megan Carter has just, this is the third year, I believe, that she has led out on Wreaths Across America. So she will be there, in fact, with 417 wreaths to place one on each of the veterans in our cemetery's grave for Christmas. She does a brief program there that recognizes each of the branches of service. That is at 10 a.m. right there off of 300 East at the cemetery. I was able to attend with my daughters last year, and it was a very fitting tribute to our service members. If you're able to come, I highly recommend it. I know that that the junior ROTC has been out there today cleaning off the headstones. It was pretty cool. City offices will be closed December 23rd, December 26th, January 2nd in observance of the holidays. And we have a New Year's celebration at the community center, open late with games and activities until 9:55 p.m. And we have our New Year's Eve fireworks starting at 10 p.m. So that's another great show. Council, are there any announcements that I might have missed between now and our next meeting on January 11th? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 3. Are there any declarations of abstentions and or conflicts?
Yeah, Mayor, item 6A, our firm worked on that, and I'll remove myself from the council for that discussion.
Right, thank you. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to, and bear with us, as this is our last meeting of the year. It's a lengthy consent agenda. I will ask for just a brief clarification or comment from a staff member on one of the items. And as always, council, if there's more than brief clarifications or comment, you're always welcome to ask for something to be removed. But bear with me as I read through this, and we'll get through the consent agenda and then move into the other items. So item 4, consent agenda. 4A is approval of minutes from the city council meeting of 11/9/22. 4B is the board audit report, to approve that report from November 2022. Item 4C, final plats. That is consideration to approve a final plat for Sienna Hills Auto Mall subdivision located at Commerce Boulevard and Merritt Way. 4CII is consideration to approve a final plat for Indian Knolls Phase 5 located at Indian Knolls Drive and Tomahawk Drive. Item 4D, final plat amendments. 4DI is consideration to approve a final plat for Sunrise Valley Industrial Phase 1 at approximately Country Way and Smelter Drive. 4DII is consideration to approve a final plat for Barker Minor Subdivision located at approximately the northeast corner of Buena Vista Boulevard and Primavera Lane. Item 4, 4E, award of bids. 4EI is consideration to award the bid for the George Washington Boulevard 3650 South extension to SR7 Southern Parkway 2 quality excavation in the amount of $1,735,301.95. Item 4EII is consideration to award the bid for the Long Valley Transmission Pipeline to Whitaker Construction in the amount of $2,904,430. Item 4F, local consent. It is a consideration to approve a new off-premise retail beer for Maverick number 657, located at 950 Buena Vista Boulevard. 4FII is consideration to approve the renewal of the following off-premise retail beer licenses: Albertsons, First Stop, Gas Stop Washington, Hearts Gas and Food, Maverick number 390, Terribles and Walmart. 4F III, consideration to approve the renewal of the following on-premise restaurant full-service licenses: Black Bear Diner, Don Pedro's, Coral Cafe and Entertainment, Ovation Sienna Hills, Red Robin Gourmet Burgers, Royal Thai Cuisine, St. Helens Restaurant, LLC. Item 4FIV, consideration to approve the renewal of the following on-premise beer recreational amenity licenses: Coral Canyon Golf Course, Green Spring Golf Course. Item 4FV is consideration to approve the renewal of the following bar establishment license: Coral Cafe and Entertainment. So before I turn to the council, I've asked Paul Walker to just share a little bit of information on item 4CII, which is the final plat for Indian Knolls Phase 5. We've had some public reach out, and he's shared some helpful information on that. Paul Walker, if you'll just take a moment on that.
Good evening, Council. We received a comment from a citizen that was worried about the Indian Knolls development having problems interfering with the connectivity of our trail system. There's a path there that crosses the BLM property. It's just a natural surface path. It's not a recognized BLM trail, but it does make it so people could hike all the way around the Shnopkai. It does connect on the east to where the canal trail will be, but it's not a master plan trail. The canal trail will go all the way around the east, north, and then around the south side of Shnopkai, and then it will continue down. It runs north and south parallel to this development. So we don't see it as staff the parks. It doesn't really affect the connectivity of our park system. Our trail system is intact. This is just a path that's on the BLM property. And it is a nice area. We see why people would want to be there, but we're not worried about it impacting the park's trail system.
Great.
Can I ask
Anything
you
to
a
add to
quick
that?
question? So will there be access to that area on the north, you said, will there be access to that area on the BLM land on other areas around that?
So access is really hard right now. On the west, where Indian Knolls is going in, there's a fence on the BLM property that they have to cross to access the trail. And there's the Red Sands Industrial Park on the other side, on the east. And it's really hard to access it, but you can hike up around their property and get to it. So there will be access from the canal trail from the east that you could still access that property. You just can't go all the way around. You'd have to hike down and then hike back out. So there is still some access.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, council member. Thank you, Paul. Any brief clarifications, comments before I call for a motion to approve the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I have a motion by Councilmember Coates,
Second.
second by Councilmember Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. Item 5, Finance. 5A, this is a presentation of the audited Washington City financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. I'm guessing we have a representative from Hinton Burdick PPLC. We know you, Mr. Whitwer. Welcome.
All right, good evening. Good to be with you.
If you just state your name for the record.
I'm Dave Whitwer with Hinton Burdick. I got Victoria with me as well, who's part of the audit team. And I'm here to report on the June 30, 22 audit. So pull up the presentation there. Thank you. And I believe you've also got copies of the audited financial statements. So I'll first touch on our various audit reports and any findings, and then we'll go over a few financial highlights. Just let me know if you have any questions as we go along. So, all right. So if you want to move to the next slide. There we go. And next one. Okay, so here's, and the page numbers here refer to the actual audited financial statements. You can always refer back to those later. So page 1 of the financial statements is our main independent auditor's report. And we've issued an unmodified or a clean opinion, so no issues there. And I do want to just point out, for those who study these reports closely, it has changed significantly this year. There were some new auditing standards that changed the format of the report. It's basically, the content is essentially the same. It's just the opinion is actually now moved towards the top of the report instead of towards the bottom. But just wanted to give a heads up there. And then page 83 of the report is our report on internal control over financial reporting. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that are required to be reported. So we commend management and the finance department for their efforts there. So no issues there. So we did issue a separate letter to management with a few recommendations as we performed our audit, and management has those. And then page 85 is our report on state compliance. As part of the audit, the state auditor's office puts out a list of procedures that we're required to look at as part of our audit from a state compliance standpoint. And on that report, again, we've issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. There was one instance of non-compliance. It's a carryover from previous year. If we move to the next slide on that. So the one issue that remains is budgetary compliance. There was, in the general fund, the solid waste sanitation department was over budget, as well as the transfers out in the general fund. Management's response to these, the over budget, is on page 91. And essentially, the sanitation costs are essentially a pass-through with the solid waste district. And so as management notes there, they'll coordinate there with the district to make sure that the budget is adjusted as needed there. And then the transfers out is not an overspending of funds. It's more of an internal transfer needed to in connection with the budget. So that shouldn't be an issue going forward, given management's response there. All right, and then last year, in fiscal year 21, the city did have a federal single audit. For fiscal year 22. Federal expenditures did not meet the level, so the city did not have a federal single audit for 22. Let's go ahead and skip a couple slides. Next one. So now, any questions or comments on any of the reports or findings before we move on to a few financial highlights? Okay. So focus on general fund for a few minutes. So this shows the balance sheet trends of the general fund. So assets, liabilities, and fund equity. So the pink line is liabilities. It's up significantly, mainly due to the city received a significant amount of ARPA funding, about 1.7 million, and that was not spent in fiscal year 22, and so that's deferred until that's spent. So that's in a liability account. And also construction bond payables are up as well. So that bottom blue line, fund balance or equity, is overall decrease of about 3.6 million for the year. So that results in an ending balance of about 8.2 million. So the city did budget for a significant decrease. Part of that, the majority of the 8.2 million in fund balance at fiscal year end is unassigned fund balance, about 5 million. So that's, if you compare that to current year general fund expenditures, that's about 20% of general fund expenditures, that 5 million. So next slide, this will show the revenues and expenditures of the general fund for the last 5 years. You can see the trends there. So the top blue line is revenues, and then the pink line expenditures. So again, over there's over a $3 million net increase before transfers, so revenues were greater than expenditures. So both revenues and expenditures revenues were down about 2.1 million, mainly due to, in fiscal year 21, the city had significant CARES Act funding, about 2.3 million. And also highway sales tax revenues are now no longer being recorded in the general fund. Those have been moved to a capital projects fund. So revenues in the general fund are down. And general sales tax revenues are up significantly. We'll look at that in a moment. And then expenditures are up about 2.2 million or 10%. If we go to the next graph, so this shows in the general fund comparison fiscal year 22 to 21 by function. I'll just point out a few highlights here. So general fund or general government is up about 600,000 or 24%, mainly due to administrative services, and then there's a significant capital outlay relating to a property purchase. Public safety ended up being pretty consistent between the 2 years. The big one is if you look towards the bottom, so transfers out, and the city budgeted for this. You can see over 6.6 million for fiscal year 22 was transferred out, and those were mainly due to transfers to capital projects funds. So, all right, next slide. So this shows the city's sales tax revenues for the last 5 years. You can see the significant increase. So if you look at fiscal year 18 compared to 22, it's nearly doubled. Comparing fiscal year 22 to 21, it's about a nearly 14% increase. So, and next slide shows property tax revenues. Comparison to fiscal year 22 compared to the previous year, about a 7% increase due to the growth in property tax revenues. Any questions on general fund before we take a quick look at a few of the utility funds? Okay, next slide. So these next three slides will focus on water, sewer, and electric funds. And it'll have the same format here. You can see you have the operating activity. So this focuses on the water fund first. So operating revenues and expenses. The operating income is about 1.1 million for the year. It's consistent with the previous year. And then if you see the income before transfers and capital contributions, this includes operating income and non-operating activity. So non-operating activity would include impact fees, investment earnings, interest expense, so forth. So for water fund, over 2.5 million when you include the non-operating activity. So, and then if you look unrestricted equity, about 11.7 million. So this is equity that's not tied up in impact fees or capital assets. This is unrestricted equity. So 11.7 million. That's an increase of about 9% from the prior year. And if you compare that to the operating expenses of the water fund, that's enough to cover about 1.5 times the annual operating expenses. Okay, let's go to the next. So same format here with the sewer fund, just point out a couple items. So operating, there's about $258,000 operating decrease a year, relatively consistent with the prior year. When you include non-operating activity, it's about a $62,000 increase. So if you look at unrestricted equity, 7.2 million as of June 30th, and that's enough to cover about 3 times the annual operating expenses of the sewer fund.
Dave, it seems that on a utility like this, that you really shouldn't have expenses exceeding the revenue, because aren't you just essentially passing through the cost of the service? Do you see a need for us to adjust our sewer rates?
I don't think so. If you look at, obviously you can do rate studies on that. You can see the actual unrestricted equity is pretty significant there. It's enough to cover about 3 times the annual operating expenses. Sewer fund has actually got the largest cushion out of the 3. But operating expenses do include non-cash items such as depreciation expense. That does hit it. If you look at cash flow.
And we've had some pretty big capital projects on that, so.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then when you factor in some of the non-operating activities such as impact fees and so forth, then that bumps that up. But yeah, if that starts to get a larger operating loss, then you'd probably want to take a closer look at that. So yeah, good question. Yeah. Okay. And next one. So the last one on the utility fund. So electric fund. Let me flip the page here. So a nearly $1.2 million operating increase for fiscal year 22. A little bit of a decrease from the prior year. Revenues are up about 11%, while expenses are up 14%, mainly due to a decreased gross margin. So there's an increase of about 1.7 million when you include non-operating activity. And so unrestricted equity as of June 30th, about 13.6 million. So that's enough to cover about 80% of the annual operating expenses of the electric fund. Okay. And next one, we'll wrap up with this last slide. So this shows the remainder of the city's funds. CPF stands for Capital Projects Fund, SRF is Special Revenue Fund, DSF, Debt Service Fund. So you can see the other funds there. I'll just point out a few items there. The Capital Projects Fund, both public safety and general projects, they increased mainly due to $1 million transfers in from the general fund. As we previously talked about, significant transfers out from the general fund to some of these capital projects funds. Both the capital projects funds, recreation and streets, both increased significantly due to impact fees and transfers in exceeding capital outlay and transfers out. And significant portions of those balances relate to restricted balances for unspent impact fees. Well, a big change for fiscal year 22 is if you see the debt service fund MBA. The city issued $10 million in bonds for parks, a skate park, and the majority of that, nearly all of that had not been spent as of June 30th. So that's why you see over 10 million in that debt service MBA fund. The two at the bottom, storm drain and irrigation, those are utility proprietary funds. So they've also got the capital assets included there. And the majority of those significant balances are relating to investments in capital assets. So. All right, and next slide, I think that's it. And I do want to thank you for the opportunity to provide audit services, and we certainly appreciate management and the finance department, Brian, Pepper, and all the work and help that they give us in helping us complete the audit. They do an excellent job in all that they do. So, yeah.
Council, any questions or comments for Mr. Whitwer? Yeah, excellent report. We're thrilled to have such a clean audit. We appreciate Brian and all your work and on city manager and all the oversight. Jeremy, what would you add?
Well, I want to echo what Dave said. It's our finance staff has done just a tremendous job. I was teasing Dave a little bit. You have to find at least one thing to pick on. if we ever get a completely clean audit, then Brian and I both have to retire. But what comment did you make when I said that?
That you're about as close as you can be to a clean audit, so.
See, I told him, say that in the meeting then, but I had to pull it out of him. You know, we're
Yes.
about as close as we can get without having to retire. You know, like it's like hitting a hole in one and then never playing golf again.
Right.
So,
Find something inconsequential in future years then, because we don't want to lose either of these guys.
Yes. No, trust me, we're not looking for something just to report it, so.
No, and the format really, I mean, we've sat through these before, but this format was excellent. Really great summaries, really helps us to, you know, have a good update on our financial position and really our financial strength. I mean, we're doing really well in all the key indicators as far as I can tell. So,
So, yep. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, preliminary plat. Item 6A is consideration to approve a preliminary plat for Green Springs Village 1, Phase 1, located at approximately Main Street and Washington Parkway North. The applicant is GWC Capital, and our city planner, Eldon Gibb, will present to the council on this item.
Thank you, council. Good evening. This particular subdivision is proposing 51 lots on an area covering 29.11 acres. Zoning designation at this location is planned community development. The surrounding zoning is planned community development to the north, east, and west, and administrative professional and planned unit development to the south. Staff discussed the name of the development with Alliance Consulting and learned that GWC Capital is in the process of renaming the planned community development to avoid confusion with the existing Green Springs development. And condition number 13 has been added to this report to address that concern. The hillside boundary extends down to and touches the proposed Kalima roadway. The applicant submitted a hillside review application to amend the hillside boundary line. And on November 29th, 2022, the Hillside Committee met and discussed the hillside proposal. The Hillside Committee noted one rolling hill southwest of the first water tank that should remain as protected land in the hillside boundary, and sketched an updated boundary line encompassing the rolling hill. The Hillside Committee discussed options to amend the hillside boundary line. The Hillside Committee agreed the best path forward for this project is to note the land on the revised hillside map should be classified as developable land not needing further hillside review. The Hillside Committee recommended approval to allow the identified land in the revised map to be developable, not needing further hillside review. With the Hillside Committee's recommendation to allow this area to be developed, the proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances as it relates to this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. And I would just like to note condition number 13, which reads, prior to submitting the final plat application, the existing planned community development name, along with the subdivision, shall be changed through the formal process of submitting the application to the Community Development Department. And I also would like to just clarify the hillside boundary line. If you could scroll down, I think it's the last map. It was one up, correct, yeah. The green line is the existing hillside boundary line, and then that teal line is the proposed. That red hashed out area is the land that's been removed out of the hillside and classified as buildable area. And I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Council, what questions do you have for staff?
Thanks, Eldon. One of the, I know, concerns that some members of the city council has had is making sure that we preserve access to some of our natural features up there that are so wonderful. As I look at the map here of the overall project, it looks, it looks like they've paid attention to that. Can you speak to that a little bit, Eldon, what you guys have done and what the developer has done to address that?
Yeah, you bet. There'll be 3 trailheads in the area that they identified in the planned community development. One of those is just to the north, kind of east of this development, between the first water tank and the second water tank. And according to the PCD, there'll be a trailhead to get onto that trailway.
Thank you.
Additional questions for our city planner? Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here? Would you just come forward and state your name and share with us what you'd like to tell us about this project?
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. If you could pull up the slides. It should be a different slide deck. But yeah, my name is Daniel Lemich with GWC Capital. Appreciate your time and the opportunity to be here and submitting kind of on this first project of a really important project for us and for the city. We're really excited. We've been working hard in the background with our wonderful planners and engineers, and are ready to kick this first project off. So we appreciate your consideration of this. If you could go to the first page. Nope, it's the master plan. Should be, there you go, perfect. So this is our master plan showing kind of everything that we have so far in the green area. Is showing this Village 1 Phase 1 that we were just reviewing by Eldon. You can go to the next page after that. This is the...
just back on that one, like Councilman Henderson brought up, it's nice to be able to see where those 3 trailheads are, right? I mean, this is a specific section is highlighted in green there, but if you kind of scroll, Drew, you can see where the other way, you can see the top of the development to the north where the 3 separate trailheads, and I think that's kind of what the question was in regards to, is access to those points to the extent possible for the residents who like to hike in the reserve there.
You bet, definitely a focus in our planning, right? Listening to the landscape and kind of basing our planning around those elements. Definitely a unique part that we're going to take advantage of. So, yes.
Are these, just having looked at it last few days, I like it a lot. And are these bring your own builder lots, or are they going to be built out by, a large builder, or what are your plans for that?
Yeah, a mix. We'll see kind of how it goes, but a mix of all of the above. Yeah, it'll be custom. This first phase will be some nice lots, right? They're your estate type lots. So we're excited to see what we're able to do with it.
I like the size of, I like that there are mixed sizes, and I like the size of some of those larger lots. So it looks like it's going to be really nice.
You can go to the next page. Thank you. You're all right. Everything that we're basing our planning and design and names around, right, is the concept of living in the outdoors, right? The art of living outside. Hits right on what we just talked about, is really capturing those elements and the uniqueness of this property, right? And it's taken some time, and we've really been diligent in coming up with a name. You can go to the next slide, where we base kind of all the different concepts around this, the art of living outside, and all the different components that go into that, and kind of the timeless community design principles that we're putting into the design of this community. And so the name of this project, you can go to the next slide there, will be Salente.
Can we redo that with a drum roll? Okay. All right, tell us about this name. This has been
I went
the
in
long
silence there
awaited.
to just let it resonate a little bit. And there's some bullet points there that talk to the meaning of that name. And again, we've put in a lot of work, and our marketing team has spent countless hours and just work coming up with this that we're really excited about. So should we do a drum roll again, and then I'll say it again? But yeah, Solente will be the name of this project.
So is it an actual word, or is it just combining some root words? What?
Yep, exactly.
It's kind of combining like soul, like
Yep.
sun, soleil.
Yep. The master plan community. Yep.
Cool. I like it.
We do too. Thank you. It does have. Yes, we are. I speak Spanish. Serve my mission in South America, so I go with that. But we are Solente. We'll roll with that. So appreciate your time again. Wanted to give the council just an update, and really appreciate the time that we've had with staff and Public Works, and it's been a really great process just in the initial stages, right? Really good team here, and we're excited to move forward on a lot more that, like I said, we have in the works here. So thank you.
Daniel, stay up there for just a minute. We appreciate you listening and working hard to brand this really high-end, really nice development. I mean, this is going to be first class. Drew, do you have can you go back to the packet that shows? I really like the entrance into this, and I made mention of it just a little bit in our prior meeting where we were talking about the interchange 11 and how that ties into Main Street on both sides. I love that this first phase of Solente has a beautiful entrance. If you scroll up, you can just see it on the bottom of that plat, other way, right there. That's literally the intersection of our Main Street and Washington Parkway. So I think that really is going to tie in, kind of this new age of Washington and kind of that historic downtown. And so I love that landscape concept. I love the white and, kind of that open but gated area. I think it's a really nice design. And so I couldn't let this first phase go through without pointing out that. And then council, any other thoughts or any other questions? And I think we're letting him off a little easy tonight, but.
So projected build out on this first phase, and then the overall project build out.
Yeah.
Timeline, I guess.
Yeah, you bet. We plan to break ground next year, 2023. Our projected master plan build out in the PCD mentions the 20-year time frame. We're excited to get this first one going, and it's going to be an anchor for the city that we really want it to be. I like how you mentioned and have observed that it's kind of you have entered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really prominent feature that we're excited about.
Yeah, a lot of really exciting and really appropriate pieces are coming together in Washington right now, and this is certainly an important piece. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you being here tonight. Council, is there any further discussion on this, deliberation? If not, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
If there isn't any further discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for, I'm going to say Green Springs Village 1, Phase 1 subdivision located at approximately Main Street and Washington Parkway North.
Have a motion by Councilmember Martinson.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
The plat is approved unanimously. Congratulations. All right, at this time, we'll move on to item 7, ordinances. 7A is consideration to approve an ordinance repealing and replacing Title III, Business and License Regulations. Tara, give us the summary.
All right, after our last workshop meeting, we made a few little tweaks to a couple of the items that you had concerns about, just some wording. But the main item is we removed the home occupation portion of the ordinance and we're just referencing back to the zoning ordinance. It does leave a placeholder in our business license code, so if we want to go back and put it in that area, but if not, we can move forward updating home occupations when we're ready or when we get some different wording in the zoning ordinance. So other than that, everything is the same from our last workshop.
Okay, just want to thank you, Tara, for working with us. I know we can be
Thank you.
difficult, but we're just trying to get it right,
We're-
even though we
nope.
probably don't it, but we're gonna give our best shot at it every
You know,
time.
let me defend this group just a little bit. It's because they care so much, and it's not because they don't appreciate the work. It's just,
Nope, I appreciate that. So I think we've got a good ordinance and I think it'll be great for our residents as well, so.
I just had one comment. I took the or the opportunity to read all the 22 chapters of Title IX. And in one area it says that the home occupation shall not involve shall not include any display, stock and trade employees or the use of advertising. And so will that be an issue where we've had discussion with
So
residents who have
that's what
said-
we have now. That is our current ordinance. So what we're doing in this one is we've just pulled out anything.
No,
we've
this is
discussed.
in the Title IX.
Yep, that's the zoning ordinance. So this is business licensing. So we're referring back to zoning and that's where all the changes will come when you guys move forward with more changes on the home occupation. Rather than in the business license portion, it's just gonna be in zoning now. So yes, you will have to make changes because that's what we currently have, but it's not gonna be part of the business license ordinance. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Maybe finish your question first.
Well, I'm just wondering where it says in the Title IX, and it says that you can't have any employees, if we're gonna be referring our business license to the, the zoning, and it says not to have employees, will that be an issue for those who have a business license and who have, an employee that comes over and helps them at their home?
So yeah, that section of the code will remain the same. And if the city becomes aware of a home occupation business that has employees that are parking either on the street or it's in some way, if that issue were to become known, the city would look into it like we would have in the past. So that's not changing tonight. If and when we address the home occupation portion of the business license code that has been removed from tonight's action, we'll need to try and homogenize the existing Title IX and whatever amendments to the home occupation business code we resolve upon. But yeah, that section of the code remains the same today. We're not changing it, and we would deal with it on a complaint type basis like we have in the past.
So if someone has just someone helping at their home, technically it wouldn't be an issue with their business license unless they had it become an issue and a nuisance where they're having
Correct.
10 or more employees showing up at their home.
Yeah, if the city started to get complaints and we'd opened a case about those, one of the threats we would tell them is, look, if you don't come into compliance, we could pull your business license. But that would be the scenario when that would come up, is we've received some complaints, we've looked into it, we've substantiated what was complained about, and now we communicate to that license holder that, their license might be at risk if they don't come into compliance.
good questions, good clarification. Further discussions, further questions? We ready for a motion on this one?
Councilwoman Casperson, are you comfortable with that? Knowing that we have to go back and relook at that code at a different time?
Yeah, I think I'm okay for now. And I know that our city is not actively going out and trying to, we want to support our businesses and so I'm not concerned that you guys will go out and be looking for problems. So I'm comfortable with this.
No, that's a really good point, and it may be at some point that we do address that specific part in more detail. But I think right now reverting that particular section back to existing, like you said. So if we're good, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Mayor, I will move that we approve an ordinance repealing and replacing Title III business and license regulations.
Have a motion by Councilmember Henderson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Coates. We'll go roll call vote. Casperson,
Aye.
Coates,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Martinson.
Aye.
The ordinance passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you for your excellent work, Tara. We appreciate it. Our code is all of a sudden feeling less antiquated. Okay, item 7B and 7C have both been pulled and removed from this agenda per the applicant's request. So move along to item 8, agreement. This is consideration to approve the development agreement for Sienna Hills Auto Mall project. Legal counsel, City Attorney Thad Sigma will present on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The agenda lists me for 8A, 8B, and 8C, so I'll just plan to stay here if that's okay, Mayor.
Let's do it.
8A, all of you have heard about the Sienna Hill Auto Mall project as it's come through, and it's different layers. There's the PID layer. They've been here to talk to the council several times just on the planning. This development agreement was required by legal on the basis that there's some details that I believe the city would want to have covered. And so this agreement attempts to do that if the council finds it agreeable. I'm just mirroring council room 2. Council room 2. There we go. A couple of things I wanted to call out about the Sienna Hills development agreement. And this starts from the template that I've implemented. We start with a template that me and usually economic development, sometimes planning and zoning, will provide to the applicant. Hey, this is our starting point. Let's work from there. And so this is using that template. A lot of it is just kind of boilerplate development agreement. There's not a lot about this project that, it's one of the smaller acreage wises as far as development agreement goes. Also fairly simple in that it's just commercial pads with some road and infrastructure within those. Section 4.2, design guidelines. I wanted to call that out to the council. So one of the challenges that we worked through with the applicant is because the nature of their project is simply just that, commercial pads with nothing else. We talked a lot about, well, what are they going to look like? What's their style going to be? How are we going to make sure the council's happy with those? And so paragraph 4.2 addresses that. You'll see there the Sienna Hills Auto Mall project plan reflected here in Exhibit B. And this is what I want you to remember, shall be amended and adapted by the developer as their lot owners come in. And so they've got a duty, an ongoing duty, as these lots are sold and go to different dealerships, they've got a duty to amend and update that and keep us informed as to style and design and all of that. And this wasn't a hard thing for them to agree to, because they of course want the project and the look and feel of it to be something that's attractive, and they were fine keeping the council apprised of that. But I want you, this is a unique paragraph that exists because of the nature of usually a development agreement project can show us their planned finished look, and this one just can't because of the nature of how it's being designed.
So the question I have for you, Thad, is don't they have to abide by the Sienna Hills master plan because it's part of the Sienna Hills master plan? So there's already design guidelines that they're applying
There
to
is, yep.
as part of the Sienna Hills. Okay.
There's 2 limiting things. That one, there's 2 or 3 on the east end. You'll see the last sentence of 4.2. This is again unique to this. For purposes of this agreement, developer and city agree that automobile manufacturers require that authorized dealerships produce precise compliance with corporate design requirements unique to the brand or brands. And so we've built into this also the city acknowledging that, you know, if there's a brand that requires a certain look and feel, that we accept anything that's just dictated by the corporate brand that this dealership represents. And so, you know, we can't entirely rework their look and feel, especially if it's something that's dictated by their auto brand. Any questions about the design guideline section? It's a little bit of a moving target. You know, we don't know what lot's going to sell to whom and when, but when it does, they've got an obligation to keep the city apprised of how things are going to look and feel out there. Subsection 9 talks about the developer's public improvements. This is something we always want to cover in development agreements. We want to make it clear that us and the applicant know what it is they're supposed to build and install for us. So we cover that in paragraph 9. Paragraph 11 or paragraph 13, we talk about the things that the city's agreeing to do for them. And so we've got that listed there. Perhaps the most important for the council will be the exhibits, and some of the, I guess those are going to be in a separate file in the packet that you've all got there. The exhibits that show the project, give the details that show, you know, this one you've all seen from prior hearings. A lot of these project plan details are fairly, I don't want to say recent, but include more planning and drawing than anything you've probably seen before in there. But it's still the same concept. They're going to build a road, a couple of access points off of Commerce Boulevard, connection point to Merritt Way, and then commercial pads along that. What questions might you have regarding the development agreement for the auto mall?
You're comfortable with it?
Yeah, this is a project, you know, sometimes when things take a while to get through the process, you get a little frustrated, but the benefit of them taking a little while is we've definitely chewed this one many times, and it's had a chance to be subject to a lot of review, and so I'm comfortable with it.
Thank you, Thad, for doing that.
Okay, time for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the development agreement for Santa Hills Auto Mall project.
I have a motion by Councilmember Casperson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
The agreement is approved unanimously. 8B, consideration to approve the termination of a park maintenance agreement in Green Spring.
We wish there were springs, but it's just Green Spring.
There is a spring,
but in southern Utah, we add an S to a lot of words, and that's one of the words that's had an S added to it often.
It's hopeful wishing.
Yeah,
everything.
Someday there will be another spring, I'm sure. So this is the agreement to resolve a matter that the council was apprised of in closed session a few weeks back. This is the lot that sits directly across to the southeast of our golf course clubhouse. And since the 90s, it has been subject to what the council at the time called a park maintenance agreement. In essence, the city owns that lot, but they signed an agreement with the developers of those original Green Spring communities that the developer would install and maintain the landscaping and water feature on the city's lot. And so that's been in place for some time. As the council's aware, the legal counsel for those HOAs contacted the city, made some demands for reimbursement and a number of things. This agreement is the resolution to resolve those claims. In a nutshell, what we've agreed is the city will agree that that park maintenance agreement is terminated as of the date of signature. The HOAs agree that they have no claim whatsoever against the city for reimbursement, payment, or any damage at all. The HOAs also agree that they have no future or ongoing claim as to how the city uses or what it does with that parcel. And so essentially an amicable agreement for both of us to go our own ways and come up with new plans for everything else we have to worry about, but they don't have to worry about the city lot anymore, and the city doesn't have to worry about them maintaining it anymore.
So we can approve this agreement and then decide what to do with it.
Yeah, if you vote no, I go back and have some attorney conversations. If you vote yes, you get to have a meeting and talk about what to do with this lot.
All right. If I had a vote, it would be the latter.
Should we table it?
I think I'm hearing another motion from this side of the room here.
I'll make a motion to approve the termination of park maintenance agreement in Green Spring.
I have a motion by Councilmember Casperson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
That agreement is approved unanimously. 8C, consideration to approve the improvements agreement for Weatherby Way.
So Weatherby Way, just to make sure the council's up to speed, that is the road that was planned to run through the middle of the Finley Farms phases. And then in the process of phasing and sales of phases, somehow it ended up that it wasn't going to be built by anybody. They all just wanted to get their phases approved so that they could move on, but nobody was going to build the road. And so it's been about a 6-month position where the city has disallowed them from getting final plats to council until this road issue can be resolved. This agreement proposes to resolve that. You'll see here in paragraph C, one of the things we've required is that the developer post a cash bond in the amount of 110% of the engineer stamped estimate cost of building the road and installing all of the infrastructure within the road that's needed. So it's a fairly substantial cash bond. One of the agreements we've reached with the applicant is that we would put it into a PTIF fund, Public Treasures Investment Fund. It would be an interest-bearing fund, and that the interest would be split 50-50 between the city and the applicant. But those funds would be deposited before they're allowed to record any plats to those final plats to those phases. If they don't ever deposit that money, they don't get to record their final plats. We still have them on hold. Once that money's deposited, they then have a time period of 12 months to get the project built. One of the delays right now is the NRCS water line that exists through the road area. This is a water line built by the NRCS 50 years ago. It's about as old as that dike that needs to be removed. Its purpose was to move floodwaters out of the area. Old concrete pipe ditch old concrete pipeline that needs to be relocated. Mostly the relocation is to modernize the pipe, but there's other elements of putting it within roadways and things so that it can be a little easier to service. They can't really begin until that has been completed. We're informed that it's been funded by the county, but it has not gone to bid. So there's still some time frame before the NRCS project happens. They won't be able to build the road until the NRCS line, the new line is put in place. And then the old line will be removed by the property owners as they.
When does the 12-month clock start, though?
When we sign. And so in theory tonight, if the recorder got the mayor to sign it tonight upon approval. If they fail to build the road, the city pulls the bond and uses those funds to construct the road either way. Another element to this agreement is they must dedicate the road to the city. That's another issue that we've got is there's never been a plat approved where that road became dedicated as a public road. And so one of the elements that the city needs from this is an actual road dedication plat. We've seen that, we've reviewed that, connects in all the points where the council's always wanted to make sure it connects. And so we anticipate that we'll get that plat recorded shortly after signature as well.
So I have a question, and it just, I apologize because I know we've talked about this agreement, but it just came to me in reviewing the exhibits. It says bonded works area, work site, and it only shows half the road for like 2/3 of it. I thought we agreed the full road was going to be built.
John knows more about those reasons. There are reasons for them though.
Okay. Because that's what we originally discussed, was that the full road would be built, because that was the problem, is that the main roadway wasn't being built and all this developments around it were being sold off. So that's why we came to this. And sorry, I totally forgot to bring that up.
Yeah, we had the two initial problems. The first one was that the road just didn't connect. didn't finish to Fields Road. John, do you want to talk about the planned portion at this point?
Evening, Mayor and Council. As part of this road, especially down there at the, I guess, the southwest section, we have another development that they're responsible for a portion of that road is with their development, North Rim Farms. So that is a portion that we didn't have included. The original construction plans and original approvals and stuff, again, had only half of that road being built. And so as we made our way up through.
That was based on the construction plans, right?
Mhm.
But in council, we were like, this road needs to be, actually, I guess I should back up. That's not true. The subdivision on the north, we said they had to build the road halfway up on one of them.
On
but then
Townhomes 3, yeah.
on town, yeah, it says, it just says adjacent property, but on the other property, when it came in, that's when it came to our knowledge that the road was not part of anybody's development at this point, and that the main developer who was selling these pieces was responsible for it. And that's when the red flag came up for us, like, who's going to build this thing then? So when we talked about this agreement, I always understood that we were getting the full road. I don't want a patched up road. That's my concern now.
So we could have the developer come and talk about it a little bit, but I know they're working with that developer as well, the other developer, to do it all at the same time. They could probably talk about discussions they've had there, but it's tough to make them responsible for a piece that really comes from another development.
I do understand that, but you see where I'm coming from is that all of a sudden we went from having one road from one developer to now we have 3 or 4 different developers along the way. And what I don't want is, I'll say it every time, our Washington Fields Road back and forth it just bugs me that we don't have a nice, smooth road. We have lots of patches, so.
Yeah, the developer's representative has informed us that they're attempting to get these other landowners to participate in a project that would build the full road. I did not attempt to include them in this agreement because I wanted to get the agreement done. I wanted to get it to council because we are holding up plats on this basis. And so this reflects as much of the road as we can legally require from those landowners. But we understand your sentiment. We would rather that the full road be built as well. I'll turn the time over to the applicant.
If you just state your name, please.
Thank you very much. Paul Morris with Land Assist, representing the principal. Todd Smith is here. We also have the engineer, the construction manager, and the person who's going to build the road.
Good to see you, Paul. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you. And we appreciate this opportunity. We've tried to be very accommodating to those interests that you have described. So the applicant went on its own time, got the full easement for the NRCS line and got it for the county, and we know it's fully funded. The dedication plat you have on here is for the whole road, not just the whole half. And then we're also, as part of the work, grading the whole road, all aspects, but you can't do half without all of it being done. But the part we're bonding for is the part that we would be legally obligated to. This subdivision of these phases do not create the need for 100% of that road. But we are going to each of the other landowners right now, and we've already got it priced. And again, our engineer has engineered all of it. And we're asking them, this makes the most sense for you to join with us. You might not be in the bond. We are in the bond for our whole half, but it will save you money if you will sign your side of the contract and build the other halves on both sides. We think they're going to do that because that makes the most sense. It'll save them when they're coming in, when the contractor is already out there doing the road. So we've really gone to bat to try to make sure you've got a full dedication, it's fully graded, but we're just being bonded for the part we're legally responsible for. But I commit to you, we've committed to you, the owners committed to you. We're going to each of the property owners. We got the pricing out and say, this is the part that you should do right now. It'll save you a lot of money while we're there. The expectation, and we confirmed with the county, is that they have the funding. They're going to go to bid right after Christmas. They're going to have a couple weeks. They're going to award the bid for the line. It's a 120-day build, 6 weeks to order the the pipe. So we think they'll be done in June-ish, around that time. And our contractor, who's represented here, who gave the proposal here, said he can have the line done in the timing of that line going in and this road done sometime later summer this year, before the year time frame. So we think we're teed up nicely to do it. And in the time between now and you approving this and when we actually start, our every intent is to show those people why it makes mathematical sense for them and financial sense to step up and do their halves at the same time. So the same contractor will just do the whole thing.
Thank you for that explanation. So, and I hope the NRCS pulls through. I know that the funding's been there, so.
Yes, it's not funded by the county. It's federally funded, and the county says they have the money. We have it confirmed from the county engineer.
So thank you for that explanation. So.
Just Todd Smith, the applicant, but so for the purposes of the surety, we're placing the funds in escrow, but absolutely the construction is intended to be done at the same time. It makes no sense to hot tap 60 laterals going into the townhome project. There's no efficiency to doing that later, but as a matter of the surety, we're placing the funds to do what was approved in the construction drawings. But all of the conversations and just common sense and reason implicate that we would do all of the construction at the same time regardless. You know, obviously we'll pull the funds from the surety for the sake of the construction, but in addition, they will fund their portion of the construction because it just from an efficiency perspective would make no sense not to do it. So to cover your concerns regarding half a road being finished, but we don't own that project, so we can't make them.
I understand that.
Okay, cool.
I understand that.
But that's the intention, build all the road at the same time.
And I know that we're kind of in a spot where it's just tough, right? But and I know our staff's not going to get us in this spot again. And I don't think it was our staff that did it, so I should it wasn't our staff, but I'm just saying, I'm glad that we're getting the road because we need it with all this development, and I'm excited to move forward and get this process through. I just want to make sure that we're not getting half of a road and then all of a sudden we have more of a problem. But I understand that's your half of the problem. That happens all the time, right?
And never was it our intention to bounce out of the 6 things and go, oh, sorry, we didn't do Weatherby. Never was that our intention or plan in any way, shape, or form. Always it was contingent upon the NRCS line being approved and installed, then construction can continue and after that. So we were never going to leave Washington City with the bag here. I don't have anywhere else to go. So I'm just kidding. I love.
I hope you have somewhere else. We all should have somewhere else to get.
Hey, we appreciate you, Todd.
Yeah.
Thad, anything else you'd like to add to this discussion on the agreement that you've prepared?
No.
You and Paul, I think, have worked on together.
The one detail, Paul and I have worked on this. Paul's done a lot of work with the different engineers and consultants and with the applicant. That cash bond this contract does make it releasable upon completion and acceptance of the phases as they're identified and estimated by the engineer's estimate. And so in theory, the plan is as they complete the different elements of the estimate, they have John and Public Works, inspect, audit for acceptance, accept, and then we refund that bond as they make that progress. And so the cash is really just there as an surety. Our intent is to return it to them, and we don't know how much interest it'll earn or how long it'll be there, but then that interest will be 50% returned to them.
Staff and the applicant, I'm looking, are all in agreement with this agreement? They're all in favor of it? Okay. Is there any other detail you'd like to point out that on this? Council, are there any questions or thoughts on this?
I got one more, if that's all right,
Please.
Mayor. So I know we just received the engineer's estimate. If we are moving forward on a motion, I'll probably make a motion that we leave minor adjustments to staff to adjust dollar amounts and stuff based on our city engineer approving that estimate.
I like that idea.
2 other conditions on approval. One is that their plats that are on your agenda later tonight, if approved, they not be recorded until the cash bond is posted.
Yeah, do we want to put that on this agreement or is it on each final plat?
This agreement, but on those final plats, if the council will just remember that condition of approval, that they cannot.
It was on mine.
Was there one other condition, Jeremy?
I've got it on my notes too, and just really the other thing that in talking with Jeremy on this, is just the execution of this agreement. I think
Correct.
the
That's
cash bond is in place and this agreement is executed. Those would be the conditions on those final plats that we've pulled from consent and moved down below this agreement and the road dedication, so. Thad, you're comfortable with this agreement? It seems like it's an arrangement that works well for all parties.
Yeah, it's nice to have solutions, and this road needed a solution.
Yeah.
Kudos to the applicant for working on a solution. You know, the number of the city departments have worked on the solution, council's worked on it, and I think is it ideal way that we want a road to come in? No, but we've got a solution that brings a road into play that's needed, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, it's certainly a way forward. Council, any discussion amongst yourselves? Are we feeling okay about things? Ready for a motion? Go ahead, Councilman.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement for Weatherby Way with the minor, excuse me, with the condition that any minor adjustments that'll be overseen between Thad and Jeremy, and the approval of this engineer's estimate by our city engineer be approved prior to approval of this agreement.
Council, you've heard the motion by Councilmember Coates.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Councilmember Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agreement is approved unanimously. Let's continue on with this subject. Item 9, road dedication. 9A is consideration to approve a roadway dedication plat for the public right-of-way for Weatherby Way. The applicant is Johnson Engineering, City Planner Eldon Gibb. If you'll present to the council on this item.
Thank you, council. This is the document that is needed here. This roadway will connect Medallion Drive to Washington Fields Road and is 75 feet wide. The right-of-way includes 60 feet of roadway, 10 feet of asphalt, meandering trail, and 5 feet of landscaped area. The roadway dedication conforms to the preliminary plat, which was approved on March 24, 2021. Staff would like to note that the approved preliminary plat shows Weatherby Way with a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the roadway. Staff would be in favor of removing the 5-foot sidewalk that is on the same side of the trail. Staff would recommend replacing the sidewalk with landscaping so that the end product includes 55 feet of roadway, which includes asphalt, curb, gutter, and sidewalk, and 10 feet of asphalt meandering trail, and then 10 feet of landscaped area.
Is that on the south side, did you say, Eldon?
It's the northwest
side.
Yeah. Staff recommends that City Council approve the Weatherby Road dedication with the consideration of adding a condition to remove that 5-foot sidewalk and replacing it with landscape. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Questions for Eldon? Further discussion? Motion?
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve a roadway dedication plat for the public right-of-way for Weatherby Way with the recommendation that staff has in the packet to remove the 5-foot sidewalk next to the trail and replace that sidewalk with landscaping.
You've heard the motion by Councilmember Martinson. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The roadway dedication is approved. We'll move on to item 10, final plats. Typically, we do final plats as part of a consent agenda. I'd like to address each of these individually, and as was stated, I think it's prudent that we condition the final plats for each of these phases on 1, that a cash bond is in place, and 2, the execution of the public improvement agreement, which I'll likely sign tonight. So those are the 2 conditions, unless you can think of anything else that I would recommend on those.
So Mayor, are we gonna, just for clarification, do we need to say that on each one, or can we say for items A, B, C, and D, these are the conditions?
Legal counsel, what do you think? One motion on all of these or separate motions with conditions, or what do you think?
If the council will oblige, I'd like it to be restated for each motion.
Okay, let's do that. So we'll move on to item 10A specifically, which is consideration to approve a final plat for the Finlay Farms Phase 1B subdivision located at 380 East and Sidbury Road. The applicant is Bright Ideas LLC. Thad, is that verbiage correct? 1, cash bond in place, 2, execution of the public improvement agreement?
Correct.
I don't think it's necessary for Eldon to get up and present on these, but I'll call for a motion that includes the conditions recommended by staff.
Mayor, I move that we approve a final plat for the Finley Farms Phase 1B subdivision located at 380 East and Sidbury Road with the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Conditions.
Conditions that they make their cash bond and that they execute the public improvement agreement.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Councilmember Henderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Finley Farms Phase 1B final plat is approved. Item 10B is consideration to approve a final plat for the Finlay Farms Phase 2 subdivision located at 380 East and Forest Paddock Drive. I'm happy to entertain a motion on that.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the Finley Farms Phase 2 subdivision with finding conditions provided by staff, with the additional condition that the cash bond be paid and the public improvement agreement signed and approved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second by Martinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Finley Farms Phase 2 final plat is approved. Item 10C is consideration to approve a final plat for the Finlay Farms Phase 3 subdivision located at 380 East and Barnish Place. Applicant is Bright Ideas LLC. We get another council member to take a stab.
I'll take care of this
We
one.
get one for each of you here tonight.
I make a motion that we approve a final plat for the Finley Farms Phase 3 subdivision located at 380 East and Bramish Place with the conditions currently in the packet, with 2 additional conditions: that the cash bond be in place and the public improvement agreement be in place as well.
I have a motion by Councilman Martinson.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Final plat for Finley Farms Phase 3 is approved. Item 10D is consideration to approve a final plat for the Finlay Farms Phase 4 subdivision located at Clymer Wharf Lane and Homeside Road. Applicant Bright Ideas LLC.
I got deferred to, so I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Finley Farms Phase 4 subdivision located at Clymer Wharf Lane and Homeside Road, with the finding conditions provided by staff, plus the additional conditions for the cash bond be in place and the public improvement agreement be in place.
I have a motion by Councilmember Coates.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Final plat for the Finlay Farms Phase 4 subdivision is approved. Thank you, staff. Thank you, applicant. Hopefully this provides a good path forward for everyone. Okay, we are quickly moving through a long agenda. Item number 11 is a report of officers from assigned committees. I know it's the holidays, it's been slow, but if you have something, we're happy to hear it. We'll start on this side.
Just quickly, just kudos to city staff, everybody who was in attendance to at the Christmas in Dixie. City Youth Council did a fabulous job with the tours that they did on the wagon rides and the tours through the Covington home and Christmas caroling, all of that. And it was just a fabulous event like it is every single year. So I'm glad that we continue that tradition. And then flood control, we met last week, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Approved some budgets, approved some projects.
We have some projects coming up though on
yeah.
those. So we have some Washington City projects. I don't know, they're along the river. I just don't know the exact location. It's kind of, I would call it, what is it?
Riprap things or?
Riprap, yeah, south. It's close to Pineview Park.
Okay.
So that's where some of those are going through. But yeah, we did have the budget. So
Cool. Good job. Thanks, Councilman.
So you may have noticed this mosquito merch that you got for Christmas. I expect to see this in your pocket all the time.
do you mind re-gifts? Because I'm just wondering if, you know,
Don't
your
wanna
wife
see-
needs one of these
I
for
don't
your
want to see
house.
somebody else carrying that. Councilman Coates. So anyway, here's, you know, the mosquito, the Southwest Mosquito District, is very well run, and we went through their finances in our last meeting, and they run a really tight ship over there. Not as tight as Brian, but really close. So then the other thing I learned is this last year they captured 8,053 mosquitoes in Washington City. And that represents, they think, about 10% of the total mosquito population.
So who's the poor soul that gets the counting job?
One of those people down there does that. So
If you count the same one twice.
they have to be careful.
Thank you, Councilman.
Can you get us a report on the process of how they count mosquitoes?
All right.
Council.
Can't wait for that report.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
Mayor, we have, we'll start with the solid waste. The project, I know I gave you an update, but project's not moving, like, it's under design right now on the new scale houses down at the solid waste. It's moving along. But I think the plan is to have it under starting next year. I'm assuming it's gonna be midsummer, fall before we start construction. The good thing is the operation won't be affected with the new design because it's outside. Next meeting, I'll have an exhibit for you so that you guys can look at it and kind of check it out. But I think we had some great improvements from the original design. They did put together a design committee to help with that process, and I know the staff down there is excited for the new scale house because that thing's pretty beat up, and you basically have to get out of your truck to hand people ticket. Like, it's just not safe. And so we're excited to get a new scale house, a new office building. So with that, do you have a question?
I was just gonna say the dump looks the best it's ever looked that I've ever seen it. The dump looks really good.
Republic did a good job. So
Yeah.
if you saw that they put some crushed rock on all the slopes,
Yeah.
and it kind of blends in with the hillside. So I got to give them kudos because we kept bringing up concerns of, hey, you have an erosion control issue and this, and that was their solution because they had all the rock from the construction of the new cell, and it has made it like blend in. Like,
It really looks good.
So
Yeah,
I wish we could do that to the other landfill to the south. Needs some help. It's got some things we need to work on, and I know there's some things we need to discuss. There's some road things that are getting pretty hammered. I do think city staff should know that they are, because they are connecting into our utilities. They'll have to go through our design review process. So just FYI, because right now currently their building is in the county, but they're redoing roads that are city roads and tying onto city infrastructure. So they're going to have to work. So they plan on submitting plans, and I made them aware of that, and they were like, "What?"
You got this, Joe.
So just FYI. And then on the power board, we had a meeting last month, but I think we've already discussed the big things, and it was just kind of updates of where we're at on some of the other projects. Nothing new's changed. So from those, thank you.
Great.
I just wanted to add too that they're doing good with enforcing to cover or tie down your junk that you're bringing there. I don't know, from experience, I haven't gotten a fine or anything, so I don't want to admit that, but
They're really trying to
they're doing a good job.
enforce that because they know it's the problem. They know we get hit hard. They're doing the best they can. I believe one of the biggest props we have is just the Republic trucks, and I don't know if it's just because the quantity of trash that they're bringing in, but sometimes some slips out. But I would recommend, if any of our staff sees a Republic truck dump anything, make sure you take a picture of it and then we can talk, because we can enforce those things with Republic through the district. So we're independent from each other, so, but.
Excellent. So just a few little updates. The Washington County Water Conservancy District Board approved and is launching a water efficient landscape rebate. So cities that have a landscape conservation ordinance that's adequate, like ours and 3 or 4 other cities locally, residents who remove turf are eligible for $2 per square foot in refund starting in January. There's about $2 million in that fund right now. Half is from the state and half is from the district. And so I know there's some big groups looking to take advantage of that, but if any of those that you talk to in our municipality, let them know that there's a process in place for that. There were also resolutions were passed regarding will serve agreements and rates for excess water use on new homes that are subject to the new 0.59 acre feet for ERC standard. And then as far as roads, we're making progress on the design for Purgatory Road. Appreciate your work, John, and Paul's work for we're participating with Hurricane City and the county on making some progress to extend Purgatory Road. And then you heard the updates on the I-15 widening from milepost 10 to 13 and the new interchange at milepost 11 and the update on the 3650 South, George Washington Boulevard extension and interchange. And we're also looking to move forward with the extension of Washington Fields Road south. So that's all the updates that I have from my assignments. Move on to item 12, City Manager Report.
I don't have much to report, Mayor, but if Public Works is going to be the best for last, there's a pretty high bar. We've had some great Christmas projects, so they always do a good job, but there's a high bar. It's also Blake's first Christmas party, so we'll see how it differs, but we've had a great Christmas season. A lot of great time with employees and some of their families, and really appreciate the employees we have, and just wish everybody a great Christmas time. So thanks.
Thank you, Manager, and we actually all really appreciate your weekly. We appreciate your weekly reports to the council. Item 13, we do have need for a closed session for items A and B, which is purchase, exchange, or lease of property and pending or potential litigation. I'd be happy to entertain a motion to move into closed session for those particular items.
I'll make a motion that we move into closed session for purchase, exchange, or lease of property and pending or potential litigation.
I have a motion by Councilman Martinson. Second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll take 5 minutes and move into the conference room for a closed session.